Brenda. Hey, Gordon.
Hello, everyone.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Oh, Lord, what did I do? Oh, there we go. Hmm. Hey, Allison.
Oops, I was muted. Good evening. How are you doing?
I'm good. It's been a crazy day.
As usual, they're all crazy these days, I think.
And it's so fitting that it's like thundering outside.
I saw lightning as well.
Oh God, I'm upstairs in the bedroom, so I didn't even see that. I just heard the thunderstorms because I Angel's laying down. She had a headache.
Mhm.
And so I just closed all the blinds in the house.
Wow. You think it's changing air pressure? Because that can cause a headache.
I think so. She was having real bad allergies earlier during her tutoring session,
Hmm.
um, which is unusual for her. So I just told her just to go and lay down for a little bit. But I suspect we're gonna have to make another trip to the pediatrician.
That's no fun.
That's when you have an immunocompromised child, that's par for the course.
This is true. I do understand that.
Hey, Aaron. Um, it looks like Everett Lott from Ddot says he doesn't have any audio or video. I'm not sure if that's a
I just
access.
sent a list of names to Gordon to elevate people to panelists. And so I assume that he would be doing that shortly.
Okay, okay.
Yep, I just got the list. Thank you.
Hello?
Hello.
Okay, all right.
Hey, Allison, I'm not sure if you saw, but in the question and answer section, uh, Laisha Dougherty, I'm not sure if I pronounced
See
that
it now.
correctly.
Yes, I see it now.
Okay, okay,
When she's promoted, there'll be a way for her to display yes.
okay.
But I didn't see it before you said something, so thank you. Okay, well, it's 7 o'clock. Normally give people 1 more minute before we get started. So we will give folks a moment to join. While we're waiting, I will explain, because I think we've confused a few people, that unless you are a presenter in the Zoom meeting, you cannot be heard. If you're expecting to ask a question or participate in community concerns, when we officially begin the meeting, I will explain how you can participate. Okay, well, it is officially 7:01. I'd like to be respectful of people's time. So if we can get started. Do we have a quorum? Let me see. 1, 2, 4, 5, 6. Yeah. So let's start with the call to order, bring the meeting to order, and officially start with the roll call. Commissioner Palmer.
Great. Thank you, Commissioner Brooks. 4B01.
Present.
4B02 is present. 4B03. 4B04.
Present.
4B05 is vacant. 4B06. 4B07.
Present.
4B08.
Present.
4B09.
Present.
Present.
Have a quorum.
Wonderful. Before we get into the nitty gritty of the meeting, I'd like to remind people that in a virtual environment, we ask that you use the raise your hand function to ask a question. If you're solely on the phone, we ask that you dial *9 to unmute yourself, to raise your hand, during the community concern section, and then dial *6 to unmute yourself. So we will get started with the consideration and approval of the July agenda. Does anyone have any questions with regard to the minutes of last month's meeting?
Were you doing the agenda or the minutes?
I'm sorry, agenda, not minutes. So before we move to the minutes, I have to do the agenda, and I actually have an amendment to the agenda that is currently circulated. We need to add a presentation, which is DC permits, park permits. And I'd like for them to be the last presentation. So they would then be item number 10, and we would push the consent calendar to item number 11. So I'm going to make a motion to approve the agenda as amended and ask for a second.
Commissioner Brooks, I have something to add as well, if you
Okay.
vote them separately or together.
Go ahead. Let's
Okay.
add that together.
Yeah, I have a resolution to add to the agenda. Let me just pull this up. Resolution 4B-21-0703 entitled Requesting Centralized Funding and Support for Advisory Neighborhood Commission Technology and Printing Needs. Responsive to after the notice, the agenda was noticed and was circulated to commissioners and posted to the website in draft form. So I'd like to add that to the agenda as well.
Thank you very much. So I'll make a motion to approve the agenda as amended to include one presentation and resolution. Is there a second?
Second.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor, please raise your hand.
Aye.
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 Commissioner Yates, I don't see your hand. I'm assuming silence is acceptance. Is he frozen?
Think he might be frozen.
I think so. Well, yep, we'll follow up with him when he comes back on. Okay, we'll move to the minutes, which I apparently was very excited to get to at the beginning. Has everyone read the minutes, and are there any questions with regard to those minutes? Okay, we've lost Commissioner Yates. I'm assuming he's going to log back in.
Do we still have, yeah, oh, we still have quorum with him, without him.
Yes, we do.
Okay.
I'm sure he's
He
coming
said
back on.
he's having a power issue, so I think we can, since this is administrative, we can proceed without him.
Absolutely.
Okay. Then I make a motion to approve.
Now, did we lose Commissioner Tiffany Johnson as well? All right, well, I'm going to make a motion that we accept the minutes as presented. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. All in favor, please raise your hand. So it looks like Commissioner Dawson, Commissioner Parks. Yeah, so I'm hearing a lot of thunder and lightning over here. I don't know if that's impacting people's power. So Commissioner Palmer just texted me that she lost power. I don't know what happened to Commissioner Parks. We know that Commissioner Yates lost power. So literally each commissioner is texting me that they've lost power. So I'm gonna ask each commissioner to just call in. And we're gonna give it a second for them to get back on. Okay. So once I see that they have logged back on, we will vote on the agenda, I'm sorry, the minutes. Commissioner Bramagen, you have a treasurer's report and there's nothing to vote on, is that correct?
That's correct. Would you like me
Okay,
to
so
handle that
while
now?
we're waiting, would you please give that report?
Sure. It's really brief. But the only update that we have this month is just to provide an update on our checking account. Our current balance is $31,955.98. So that's it for now. And in the September meeting, we'll have to do a quarterly financial report and potentially do our budget for next year, or we could do that in October, but that's just a sneak peek.
Okay, so I apologize to residents for us having to deal with storm outages. Gordon, I'm going to ask you to elevate commissioners via phone. Do you need the last 4 digits of their phone number?
Yes, please. Thank you.
Okay, 0610 should be Commissioner Jocelyn Johnson.
Commissioners, in order to unmute yourself, you dial *6.
Okay, Commissioner Palmer should be 6333. Commissioner Yates should be 5716. And Commissioner Parks should be 8083.
No Commissioner Yates or Parks yet.
Okay,
I'm back, Gordon.
I see. You.
Oh, thank you.
Wonderful.
I just switched to a personal hotspot running off a phone.
Okay, so is Commissioner, I believe Commissioner Parks is the only commissioner that we're missing at this moment. And when she dials back in, I'll let you know. Okay, so because several people fell off at one time, we did not actually approve the, oh, I'm sorry, let's see if I can find Commissioner Tiffany Johnson. The last 4 digits of her number would be 3710.
Nope, not yet.
Okay, all right. Before you all dropped off, we had not approved the agenda. I'm sorry, the minutes. And so we moved forward to the treasurer's report, which did not require a vote. So I'm now going to double back to the minutes and ask that you approve I think we needed a second. Did we get a second on the minutes? I'm
I
sorry.
second.
I thought you did. I'm
Yep,
sorry.
so we need to do a
And
vote.
then we just need a vote. So if you could all raise your hand if you're in favor of the minutes as presented, I would appreciate it. Okay, Commissioner Tiffany Johnson, we're taking a vote on the minutes as, thank you. Commissioner Jocelyn Johnson, I can't see you, so you're going to have to unmute yourself and say yay or nay. Dial *6 or *9, I'm sorry, to unmute yourself.
*6 to unmute.
*6, thank you, to unmute. Okay, we will move forward. As we're moving into commissioner updates, would it be possible, Gordon, for you to begin to elevate all of the invited guests while we're giving our updates and before we move into community concerns? I'm sure they'd like to be present for the community concerns.
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you. So if we could just start with Commissioner, we'll go in numerical order. So 4B01, is there any update that needs to be provided?
Yeah, I have updates on the 2 resolutions I brought forward last month. With regards to the lights at the Tacoma Metro Station, I heard back from WMATA. They're planning on providing a formal update, but unfortunately, the lighting problems that they've had there, about 15 to 20 lights out at any one time, actually turned out to be a pretty massive infrastructure issue. So now they have to go to get capital budget approval to be able to actually repair the lights. So it's going to be a long-term project to be able to get that fixed. They are going to install temporary lighting towers in the meantime there. But I wanted you to know that because of the investigation that came out of our resolution, that was the update. With regards to the other resolution on the statewide data system, I didn't hear back from either the DME or OSSI.
All right, thank you. 4B02,
No updates here. Thank you.
thank you. 4B03 would be Commissioner Jocelyn Johnson, who's on the phone. If you have an update, you can unmute yourself. And 4B04 has not rejoined. 4B05 is vacant. 4B06 is Commissioner Tiffany Johnson, who's having an issue at this moment. Oh, no,
Nope,
she's here.
I'm here.
Okay, do you have an update?
I'm back. I do have an update. I will be holding a special single member district meeting with Council Member Louis George, Deputy Director Dana McDaniel from the DC Office of Neighborhood and Safety Engagement, and members of our 4th District Police Department to discuss some of the recent crime that we've seen within the single member district. I just started publicizing it tonight. I believe all of the commissioners have received that invitation. So I welcome everyone to attend, even though it's focused on the Manor Park community, it affects us all. That is the only, that's the only update I have right now.
Okay. 4B07?
No updates at this time. Thank you.
Okay, so 4B08 would be me, and I'm excited to announce that today, one of my biggest goals from my first term has been fulfilled. Ddot was out today to install flexi posts at the intersection of North Capitol Street and Longfellow Streets. It's been a long road to get that accomplished. It's almost bittersweet because one of the main people that I worked with to work on this issue was Syra Molina, who's no longer in that position. So hopefully she will hear my shout out from afar, but I'm very appreciative to all the work that went into making that intersection safer and wanted to say thank you to everyone. So that is my update. 4B09, Commissioner Huff, do you have an update?
Everyone, just want to invite all out to our movie night. Will be sold at the Riggs LaSalle Recreation Center, 7 p.m. this Thursday. All are welcome. Bring your families and your children. Thank you.
Commissioner Palmer, did you have a question?
I just have a general update, which I should have mentioned, which is to highlight that we recess in August as a commission, so we won't be back again until the 4th Monday in September.
Okay, thank you very much. We will move straight into community concerns. Again, I ask that you raise your hand using the raise your hand function in Zoom, or dial *9 if you're interested in presenting a 1-minute concern. Let's begin with anything in the Q&A or chat. Commissioner Yates, if you could start there, I would appreciate it.
Chair Brooks, I don't see anything yet, but I would imagine it'll get populated as we get going. I imagine people are struggling with internet and power issues like the rest of us.
Yes. Okay.
Yes, we have a few hands raised if you want to take those now.
I would like to do that. Yes. Thank you.
Okay, we're going to start with Julie. Hold on one second.
Hi, folks. This is Julie Lawson from the PTO board at Whittier Elementary School. We're now in elementary school. I just wanted to highlight that we've been doing summer farmers markets in May and June and July, and we will be doing another one August 26th as we get ready for back to school. Lots of great vendors and great family engagement. I also wanted to mention that Safeway, our our favored store at Georgia and Piney Branch is supporting our school. And oh my God, the hail and lightning is crazy. Starting in August, they have selected Whittier PTO as a, they're contributing donations to us, and residents will be able to donate at the register for donating to the school. I think that's it. The hail and the kids are making it crazy. I hope everybody's staying safe tonight.
Sarah Levine, you should be able to speak. Nope, let me try that again. Okay, Sarah's having trouble, so we're gonna go with the phone question. This is a phone number ending in 898. You can unmute yourself by dialing *6. Okay, we're gonna try Elliot. Elliot, if you can hear me, you should be able to speak.
Hello, everyone. My name is Elliot Brown. I'm the Family Recruitment and Engagement Senior Associate for Rocket Ship Schools here in DC. Some of you may know, but we have opened a campus this past year during the pandemic in Ward 5, right off South Dakota Avenue, 3rd Street Northeast. And we are having a family fun day on Wednesday, this Wednesday. It starts at 6 p.m. It's over at 7:30. We're inviting families out. We have free food, music, carnival games, lots of fun for the family. There will be some community-based organizations there as well, vending, letting you know some information about things that they're doing. You can get to know our Rocket Ship teachers and other families in your community. And we're also giving away two $50 Amazon gift cards for the first 10, for one of the first 10, two of the first 10 families that come. So Family Fun Day at Rocket Ship Infinity Community Prep. Again, that's on 3rd Street in Northeast.
Thank you very much. Okay, before we go on with questions, I believe that the mayor has joined us and should be elevated as a presenter, Gordon. Also, I believe that Commissioner Johnson is, last four digits of her number is 0610, needs to be elevated again.
Commissioner Brooks, are we still missing Commissioner Parks just for purposes of meeting notes?
Yes, per her text, she did not join via phone after her power went out.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, I believe there's still one more raised hand.
Yes, phone
Okay.
number ending 898. Phone number ending 898. Dial *6 to unmute yourself.
Hello.
Go ahead, we can hear you.
Oh, thank you. My name is Charmaine Kirkland. I'm, of course, a Ward 4 resident. I live in the area of the 6100 block of Kansas Avenue, and I'm the president of our Lamont Riggs Tenant Association. I forwarded my concerns and issues on to Councilwoman George and her staff, as well as the ANC representative for our association. We have a bevy of issues. I'm not going to go into great detail, but I would ask specifically that I or a group of constituents be able to meet with the mayor. Our issues have been going on now for approximately 10 years. That's a long time. That's throughout the mayor's term and the current councilwoman's term. Presently, I was very happy to read there is new legislation that, if it were in effect, could have resolved our issues, that was introduced by Councilman Trayon White in Ward 8, that specifically adds protections for people in the District of Columbia who reside in apartment buildings, which is pretty much our situation. There are probably thousands of tenants are in the district who encounter housing violations day to day. Councilman White is introducing legislation that would curb the incidence of slumlords being able to keep people in housing bondage. And as I said again, if this legislation had been introduced sooner, it would end our issues. But for that effect, I would like to meet with the mayor. I've spoken with a number. Yes.
I'm sorry, I didn't catch your name, so I apologize. But we
No,
allow
that's
each
okay. My
resident.
name is Charmaine Kirkland, Carmayne, Kirkland.
We allow each
Kirkland.
resident 1 minute for community concerns. So at this time, since you've exceeded that time, I would like to have Anthony Mitchell, who is our MOCR, provide you with his contact information, and then perhaps you guys could continue this conversation after the meeting.
Ma'am, that's just not sufficient. I've written to Mr. Mitchell, and I've still not received a reply to emails that I've sent him, which is the reason why I would like an audience with the mayor.
Well, I can't afford you that because I don't work for the mayor, but I can't allow you to have more time in this venue than any other resident is able to receive. So what I can offer you at this time is either Mr. Mitchell's contact information or Commissioner Bramagen, which I believe would be your commissioner's, your ANC commissioner, his contact information. I need to afford you some resolution at this opportunity, at this moment, and those are the two options that I have. Commissioner Bramagen, would you like to provide your email or phone number for Ms. Kirkland?
I've written Mr. Bramagen.
My mistake.
I've written Mr. Bramagen as recent as the last 3 days and still not received a reply from him.
Well, he's here now, and if you would like for him to respond to you in the coming days, I'm sure he can. I believe he was on vacation for a few days, and I know that all of us work full-time, and he will take the opportunity to get back to you as soon as he can.
Yeah, I can only say, I guess, at this point that it's been a long-standing issue. We've talked a little bit. I know that I need to respond to your emails, and it's a difficult situation. I think for a commissioner to solve, and I know that Anthony Mitchell and the council member's office has been engaged as well, but thank you for bringing it to our attention again.
Okay, so I believe there's one other resident with a question.
Yes, Sarah, go ahead. Okay, we have Adele here.
Hello, do you hear me?
Yes, we can.
All right, I didn't know whether to wait until Anthony Mitchell's report or not, but I'm in the 600 block of Van Buren, and they are doing construction on a house that's a few feet away from my house. The topsoil is coming off into my walkway. They're also, I've talked to the contractors. They've actually put some sort of plastic to stop it. But my concern was I had talked to the ANC, and she is not getting any responses from DCRA on the status of the permit to add 12 additional feet to the back of the house that is under construction or under renovation at 609 Van Buren Street Northwest. So I would just ask if Mr. Mitchell, if he could elevate that concern to DCRA so we could, so that our ANC could find out what is the status of the report or the status of the permit and the approval to add 12 additional feet, basement, first floor, and second floor to 609 Van Buren Street Northwest.
Hey Adele, it's Anthony. I'm happy to give you a call after we wrap up here and talk more in detail about that and see how we can help.
All right, would you like me just to email you? Or
Yes, please.
call?
Either or. Do you need my phone number is 202-436-2087, and my email address is anthony.mitchell@dc.gov. Happy to
Okay.
chat.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Commissioner Yates, I believe you said there was a question in the chat.
Yeah, we just have a request for a community announcement in the chat, and so I figured I'd do that. Tisha Crockwell says the Friends of Riggs LaSalle Recreation Center is hosting an opioid summit Saturday, July 31st, 2021 from 1 to 3 p.m. at Culture Coffee 2. I will repost it into the chat for everybody to have the detail.
Thank you very much. So at this point, I believe we have covered all of the questions in the chat for now. I believe we can move on in the agenda. And at this time, we can turn the floor over to the mayor, who has come home and is visiting ANC 4B.
Thank you, Commissioner. Great to see you. And great, I got a chance to hear some of the questions that came in, and I can assure you we'll work with your offices, Commissioner, with the work for MOKers as well. To make sure that we get responses to those questions. It is good to be home. I had the privilege of serving on this commission and certainly learning a lot about local government in DC and how to make local government work for 4B neighborhoods. So it's always a pleasure to be here. I was looking back at my notes and I haven't presented to your commission in a little while. I like to get out to each commission every year. So I hope that you will invite me again next year. Members of my administration are also on the line. So I will make brief comments and I'll be happy to entertain your questions, Madam Chair, as your time allows. I will also kick it to my cabinet members to assist in answering specific questions. I want to say just a couple of things about our budget, but before I do that, I want to give a hearty thank you to all the commissioners, residents, and businesses who have made tremendous sacrifices over the last 16 months that have allowed our city to crush the virus in this city, to get our vaccination numbers for adults and children over 12, over 70%, beating the national benchmark for vaccination, as well as working with our neighbors and businesses that have needed support throughout this crisis. And so what the council has before it now is a balanced budget, $17 billion, that both provides relief for the district's recovery from COVID, but also investments in our future. And we're very proud of it, from making historic investments in affordable housing, which I'm happy to talk about, which has certainly been a hallmark of our administration, of providing $100 million every year in the Housing Production Trust Fund. This year, we were able to commit $400 million, which takes us over $1 billion in investments in the Housing Production Trust Fund. To very significant investments in the Way Home campaign, very significant investments as well in our public housing infrastructure. But before I move on in our budget investments, I want to say a little bit about Stay DC, which is our program to keep people connected to housing that have been impacted by COVID and have been unable to pay their rent. And commissioners can be very helpful in making sure that residents who need help are getting connected to Stay DC for rent arrears as well as public assistance. Let me just say a couple of things about schools. I'm very, very proud of what we're delivering in Ward 4 for schools. This year, West Elementary will reopen in their new building. The Military Road Early Education Campus will also open in Ward 4, adding increased opportunities for early education. And so we're all very, very pleased with that. Our summer programming has been robust to try to reconnect children to in-person activities, both at DPR, DC Public Schools, as well as summer employment. And so we're very, very focused and engaged on that. This budget includes very robust investment in all of the above, especially how we accelerate learning from children who have been disconnected from in-person opportunities for more than a year. We are also obviously experiencing a pretty difficult time right now with gun violence across the city. And this budget also includes investments for the full spectrum of programs, from law enforcement to prevention to opportunity programs. And this budget includes, for example, an increase in officer hiring. Because of budget cuts last year, we were unable to hire any new officers in this fiscal year. So this budget before the council includes hiring for 100 officers, which is what we're able to get in our pipeline. When you go from a dry pipeline, we can only do about 100 a year. Next year, we'll be in a better position to hire more officers, assuming that all of our budget is included in this package. We also include, and I'll have the chief just remind me of the number, but the proposal also includes funding for Mpd Cadets, which our administration is very big on. It allows us to hire high school students in Mpd, pay them while they go to UDC, and then they join the police academy. Chief, what was the number we included?
100, ma'am.
We included 100, and we want to call on the council to ensure that that number of cadets is fully funded in their final proposal. We, of course, and I know a lot of the 4B issues related to infrastructure, streets, sidewalks, trees, alleys, pedestrian improvements, and traffic calming are included in the pretty robust funding we include, not only for streets, trees, and alleys that we allocate by ward for every ward in about equal amounts. But we also have a number of traffic calming and Vision Zero initiatives included in this budget that are meant to slow traffic, correct dangerous intersections, enforce traffic violations, increase the number of bike lanes and other pedestrian protected measures throughout the district. The Metropolitan Branch Trail is, of course, a priority of ours, and I know a priority for this commission, and Director Lott can provide details of exactly where we are in this process. I also received some advanced questions from you related to vacant properties, permanent construction, which is, I think, one of the questions I heard the tail end of. And we know how important that is in areas, and in 4B is an area where we know that we have good housing stock of a certain vintage, and there's a lot of construction going on to improve that housing stock. So I am quite sure, when I was a commissioner on 4B, we had some of this activity, but I'm quite sure you have much, much more of it now, where people are improving their homes, and we want to make sure that they have all the resources to make sure that they are improving their homes correctly, and that neighbors know what that looks like, and how their neighbors should be proceeding. So I'll be happy to address some specific questions that you have about the improvements that we've made to DCRA, so that neighbors know exactly about contractors and vendors who are working before they enter into contracts for home improvements. And that's going to be a very important aspect of making sure that as our housing stock is rebuilt, that is done with reputable people and done in the right ways. There were some other questions about traffic and development, so I will wait to answer your questions specifically about that. But I'll stop there, let you know that I'm very grateful once again and proud of the budget that we submitted to the council after the year that we had with the infusion of federal funds. We have presented a very big budget proposal to the council that invests in our recovery and invest in it in a way that is going to get us back, we hope, pre-pandemic and in this fiscal year in terms of our revenues, which allows us to make the very critical investments in our city that is making sure that every person can participate in our prosperity. So with that, I'll stop and Madam Chair, take any questions that you have time for.
Well, thank you very much. We will start with commission questions. I ask that each commissioner ask one question of the mayor, direct her questions to the mayor. I'm sure she will delegate if she so chooses. You know, as we all know, we don't want one question with 15 parts and 12 subparts. So if we can stick to that general rule, I would really appreciate it. I usually go in numerical order. I think this time I'm going to work backwards to try to keep it fair. So Commissioner Huff, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. And thank you, Mayor, for all that you've done for the residents throughout the city. You know, this was a trying time. You have exceeded all expectations, delivering food, delivering services, just at every spectrum. Even, you know, returning citizens, you just made a way to help people. So I want to say thank you for that.
Thank you, Commissioner.
One of my concerns, or one of my issues, are about, you know, how we work as a community with community partnerships and engagement. I think one of the biggest things I see in my SMD is the unuse of our field, right? And the rules that go along. You know, I grew up here, been here 60 years, and it was a time when community was a part of the partnerships with the police, with different groups, and we got along, we knew each other. So I think when we start locking gates, this is just from the community and from observation, it spreads people apart. And so I'd like to see more community partnership and engagement. You know, I talk to neighbors, they want to see more officer friendlies. They want to see the police in the community. So that's one of my things, and I'll stick to the one for now. And when Chief Conti, I want to say thank you for being visible, being out. You guys are doing a phenomenal job. And any way that I can help to make our community better, I'm there. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you, Commissioner. And certainly we're very proud of the campus at LaSalle Bacchus with the beautiful recreation center and the fields that we have there, and the addition. I actually haven't been to it yet, the addition of the playground facility. So we'll get there. So it sounds like we need to have a better understanding of when everything is open and who has access to what, making sure it's clean and safe and all of that. And so I know Delano and I will work with DCPS to make sure that you're comfortable with our approach.
Awesome. Thank you very much.
Okay, so next would be 4B08, if I'm working backwards, and that's actually me. So my question for you, Mayor, is it's broader. It's more about the entire commission, right? We're the front line. We're the stopgap between government and resident. We need the city's help to engage with residents, to satisfy resident requests, and to get government agencies information that it needs to be able to do the job that it wants to do. And I think all of us at some point or another in these volunteer, unpaid, after hours positions feel a sense of anxiety. Well, maybe I shouldn't speak for everybody. Maybe it's just me, but it becomes difficult from time to time to accomplish the shared goal of both government and resident when we can't seem to get anywhere with some of these agencies. And so I guess my question overall is, what do we do as commissioners when we think we're doing things the right way, but things don't always pan out the way we would like, right? So for example, and this is a really silly example, but my understanding is that as commissioners, if we would like to see speed humps on the street, we're then to create a resolution. But then sometimes speed humps happen without a resolution, right? But the ones that we requested don't happen. And so if you could, I guess, work or provide ANC supports, I think is what I'm really getting at. We all, as I see other commissioners smile, we want the mayor to know that we're here for you, we're here for the city, but we need something in return. We need office space, we need, supports from agencies, et cetera, et cetera. So I guess that's my comment for you. And I don't know that after all of that, I don't know that there's really a question in there.
Right, sure.
But we're letting you know where we have need.
I got it. And so I come from the place of having been at ANC, and I come from a family at ANC. So I've been around ANCs a long time. And I appreciate the work of ANCs, and we're always trying to be supportive. So anytime I think the way I would answer your question is that we all have a job to do, right? It's just not the same job. Okay, so I got to do my job, all the things that I can do. You've got to do your job and all the things that you can do. So what do I mean by that? My job is to execute the laws and the initiatives and implement them. That's my job. That's my job. My job is not to give you advice. My job is to now, what's your job? Your job is to represent the 2,000 people that elected you. Absolutely. And to give agencies advice, to advise. Okay. That's your job.
Fair enough.
Now, then what your voters think your job is could be something different, right? But your job is to give advice. Now, it's my job to tell you if I can follow your advice, if I accept your advice or not. That's my obligation in the law, is to if you have great weight, and you have great weight when you vote together, that's why we talk about a resolution. Mm-hmm. It is my job to say, you know what, Commissioner Brooks, I can accept that recommendation, and you share that with your commissioners. Mm-hmm. All right, that's my job. Now, an informal part of your job is to help kind of shake things up, right? So it brings something to my attention that I didn't know, or if some part of the process isn't working for your constituent, to help make it work, right? That's part of the constituent service that you provide. Now, it's 9 members of your commission, right? I think I have 300 commissioners in total, and I'm getting that number wrong because I'm not remembering it all together. But across the city is 300 of you. So if all of the agencies have 300 people who are asking them to shake things up, and when I say shake things up, that's a nice way of saying jump the line in some cases. If I have 300 people doing that all the time, you can imagine that 1 or 9 or 50 of you will be disappointed at any given time. So that is why we try very, very hard to make sure that the systems work, that the ANCs have a direct connection with the MOKers, who then have a direct connection to me to say, hey, you know, this system that we put in place, I'm hearing from 50 commissioners, so something's not working. Or in some cases, sometimes some things or some issues or some people for some whatever reason might have to jump outside of the process. So that's the part. So how I take the temperature of the commission and commissioners is to see when the processes aren't working, so that you have what you need to do your job, to provide good advice and recommendations, but also to help your constituents when one of the systems isn't working. So here's our commitment is that the MOKers are elevating those system-wide issues, helping as much as possible with individual issues, and that I always, me or the directors owe you a response for an issue that has great weight, saying that we accept your recommendation, or if we don't, why we don't.
Greatly appreciated. That explanation is greatly appreciated. So thank you very much.
You bet.
So next would be 4B07. Commissioner Bromagen, do you have a question?
Thank you so much. Yeah, I'll ask what is hopefully a relatively quick question that I know is shared by many of the other commissioners on our commission. And that's about the traffic safety assessment process, because I've submitted several, and I know the other commissioners have too, where it just seems like we're told if there's a traffic issue, that's what we're supposed to do. We're supposed to help support a traffic safety assessment, and then Ddot will study it. And we know a lot of those were sort of on pause for data collection during the pandemic, which built up a backlog. So I think maybe it's two issues, that there's a backlog for data collection, but also maybe more of a systemic issue, which seems like it's just a thing that we're doing to keep busy without seeing action a lot of times. If the traffic safety assessments are supposed to take 130 days and a lot of them have been on pause, what can be done to speed that up and make the process more effective, or at least feel more effective, so that we can better communicate with our constituents about what to expect?
Are you requesting a traffic safety study because you're concerned about a corridor, or can you give me an example of what motivated the request?
Sure. I think a lot of them are different. And I think one issue that I've had, just as an example, is in my single member district. I requested one for Van Buren Street, the 100, 200 blocks, where speeding is a concern because there's a hill, and it was actually a safe street for a while, which was a cool experiment. And I think a lot of my constituents felt like having fewer cars on the street in that particular block increased speeding. Certainly I've asked MPD in previous times to try to boost enforcement too, because that's another way to get at that problem. But yep. It's pretty routine. And so, my constituents are asking me for help for that dangerous stretch. And Ddot said, well, for a lot of, this is my best attempt at recollecting what they told me, but basically we're waiting for traffic safety assessment data study.
Okay, so this is, I'm gonna kick over to Everett, and I'm also refreshing my familiarity with the process at the same time. It sounds like the commissioner is concerned about speed. So is this traffic safety study the way that we're advising the commission to proceed on every concern about speed?
So thanks, Madam Mayor and Commissioner, for the question. And let me first acknowledge that I understand and recognize that the whole traffic safety assessment process has been long and probably too long. and has resulted in some delays for residents. And so we've recognized that, and I've recognized that as I've taken this particular position. And so this summer, as a matter of fact, we at Ddot have began overhauling that overall process and making some of those assessments that we would have actually sent out to a third party. Some of those things we actually would do in-house now, and those will be some of the internal things that we will do to speed it up. So some of those hundreds of thousands of service requests that would go out to a third party, which were delayed because of the pandemic all of last year, some of those now will be taken on inside and internally, and we'll actually be doing the assessments and then actually doing the resolution to those assessments. And so what this actually results in is there'll be more resources, including staff as well as contractors, and some of those resources will be shifted to address the current backlogs in the traffic safety assessments. Specifically, Commissioner, to your concern about speed, we do like to do a traffic safety assessment or study, simply because we need to look at different parts of the year to make sure that the speed or the speeding issue that may be of concern is something that's happening, or the remedy that we may put in. We need to make sure this is not something that would affect and address a certain situation at a given period of time. As an example, during the summer months, school is out. So we know there may be less traffic. So there may be more people driving down the roads faster because there's less traffic on the roads. So we sometimes do those assessments to make sure that we're looking at different parts of the year so that we're giving a holistic response to the issue that's being addressed. So that's just one example. But overall, my main point that I want to share is that I've recognized that the overall assessment process has been burdensome and has been long. And so we are overhauling that and taking in many of those requests to do in-house ourselves.
Thank you very much. Appreciate you taking time to answer the question and your everything you can do to make the process work better for us, or feel like it works better. Thank you.
Sure.
4B06 would be Commissioner Tiffany Johnson. You're muted, Tiffany.
Yep, sorry about that. Good evening, everyone. Thank you, Madam Mayor, for joining in. Seeing as we've had an uptick in crimes, shootings, theft from properties, illegal discharge from firearms, et cetera, within my SMD, but all across really the ANC. What additional budget initiatives have been put in place for funding of violence interrupters, shot spotter technology, the Roving Rangers program, and any other measures that can assist in providing the community services to support them?
Well, thank you for that question. I already mentioned the police resources that we've included in the budget. And even before the budget goes in place, I've directed Chief Conti to use overtime resources to make sure that we have the level of police presence, given our diminished number of officers, so that communities don't feel a decrease in police presence. So he has to look at his force, make those decisions, while at the same time making sure he has fresh officers that can make good decisions. So I don't envy his task. Furthermore, the chief has also deployed a new, and I'll turn to him to talk about this, a more mobile, I don't know what you call the group, platoon group of officers who are going to be on bike and motorcycle, I think, and better able. The expectation is, of course, that they are on the ground, meeting, talking, getting to know neighborhoods. It hasn't been much talked about, but I also included in this budget the ability for Mpd to buy electric bikes, so that the bike officers are going to be assisted by a newer technology, which will allow them even still to be on bike, but more coverage area because they'll be on an assisted bike. I've talked a lot about our alternatives to policing and the programs related to that for violence interruption. and I'm going to forget the number of that we funded for increased violence interrupters. I think it was 54 that will be deployed across the city, working with either our ONE's office or one of our community partner organizations that hire violence interrupters. We're also what I like to call opportunity programs. We've created a program in this budget that will work with all our public safety programs, ONE's, Building Blocks, Cure Violence, and residents who are participating in those programs and ready to work. We're creating 100 new DPW positions that will help us maintain our green infrastructure that we've placed throughout the city. And you're probably very familiar with what I'm talking about along Kennedy Street. So we'll be using our public safety program participants in those jobs. And finally, not finally, but the final thing I'll mention as part of that $59 million package is a pilot for cash assistance for returning citizens. So we will be able to target a subset of people coming home to help them transition with cash or housing for a period of time to help them land back home and get back on their feet. And aside from those programs, I do want to call to your attention something that I have been really working with the courts on and our federal partners over the last 6 weeks or so, is making sure that they get open and in person like the rest of DC government. And that includes the courts so that jury trials can proceed. U.S. attorneys, public defenders, grand juries need to be seated so that all of the work that MPD is doing to take violent offenders off the streets, that the whole criminal justice system is focused on accountability. So those are, it's not a one thing that I can tell you, Commissioner Johnson. It is a whole ecosystem that we have in place to try to keep people safe. And I know it's frustrating, it's scary, and it's outrageous in many ways, some of the brazen crimes that we've seen on our streets, and nobody is angrier about it than I am. But I want you to know we're focused on it and we will get to the bottom of it.
Thank you so much, Madam Mayor.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. 4B04 would be Commissioner Parks. I think we may have lost Commissioner Parks.
Good evening, Mayor. Good evening, Chief Conti. How you all are doing? Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Yes. Oh, okay. I'm sorry. Maybe I need to turn my computer up a little bit.
Oh, I think I see the tops of your cabinets.
Yes.
Oh, okay, there you are.
You haven't seen me in a long time.
No, that wasn't a short joke or anything.
No. That was. I'm short, honey. I take it. Short and bald.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. I hear you. I know that voice anywhere.
Okay, thank you. First, I want to thank you for a marvelous job that you are doing over the city. It's quite awesome, for a lady. I have to give you all A+ on that.
Thank you.
And yes, and Chief Conti, you are new at your position, but I'm going to give you an A+ also because I could not do your work. But I'm going to say this, Mayor, I need your help at Georgia and Rittenhouse Street,
yes,
North and West. We have people that stays up there, sometimes 15, 20 of them. And there's 2 trees and each one is across the street that I would like to have cut down because without the trees, there's no shade there. And there's something, and the laundromat is right there and they sits on that laundromat wall. But if you come through there around about 12 o'clock during the day, you're almost afraid to walk in the area because there are so many people, there is so much trash there. And it's just off. And I know the neighborhood is beginning to complain badly about not being able to walk up to the shopping center right there at the food barn. So if you if I could just get your help to get that cut down, and maybe I can get, because I know that they say that Health and Human Services have been out, but they said that if the people doesn't agree, to get help, there's nothing can be done. But I know something can be done, because we really needs to dismantle that section of people right there, because I don't want a casualty to happen before something is done. Maybe we can put up with the laundromat, put up a little wall that they cannot sit on the wall. I mean, they have chairs out there, they have tables out there, drug transaction is going on out there, sex is going on out there, you name it, drinking is going, everything is going on with that little section right there. So if I could just get your help, just a start of getting those 2 trees cut down.
Well, Commissioner, we want to deal with the public safety issue.
Yes.
Hopefully we don't have to cut down trees to deal with public safety, do we, Chief?
No, ma'am, we don't. I'm sorry, I'm trying to find the mute button. Yeah, no, ma'am, we don't have to cut down trees for public safety issues. You're right.
Now, if it's a dead tree, or if the tree limbs are blocking the sidewalk,
no, the tree
limbs are falling on people, that's something different, right,
Yes.
Director Lott?
That is correct. Our urban forestry will be out on the spot to help with that.
So we're gonna look at those trees, but it sounds like we have a possible homeless situation.
Some are homeless. We have taken pictures where cars have picked them up, have dropped them off. You know, there's a black SUV that comes up, on a daily basis and picks some of them up. But all of them are not homeless. I mean, they are out there. Some of them are out there like 6 and 5 o'clock early in the mornings, sitting in their chair. Sometimes, like last week, it was so funny. I came through there and someone had a rack of clothes that they were selling.
I got it. So, let me work with the War for Mokers, and let's come up with a strategy. Julia and the Mokers, can we work with you, Commissioner, on a strategy? Yes. We're gonna work with our friends at 4D and DBH as well.
Thank you. I'm finished.
I need to unmute myself. I'm sorry. Commissioner Jocelyn Johnson, do you have a question for the mayor?
Oh, yes, I do. Hi, Madam Mayor.
Hi.
You probably don't remember me, but we go way back. But anyhow, I think you've done pretty good, but there are some balls that have dropped. I was a little disappointed that you didn't include in your response to Chair Lady Brooks talking to you about some of our needs as commissioners. You didn't include anything about accountability of your directors, and I'm a little disappointed about that, but that's being, there. I want to kind of join in the request that one of the residents of 4B made before you came on. Is there a process that we could go through if we want to have a meeting with you to discuss some of because I have a boatload of issues. One of them is what Ms. Parks just said about the trees on Rittenhouse. There's a lot of places and a lot of things where the balls have gotten through the cracks. But I also have some solutions too, since I want to bring you some solutions, not just a bunch of problems. So rather than go through that, I'd like to think about meeting with you.
Yeah, I'm happy to meet with you, Commissioner. I would ask that you kind of give us some advance concerns that you have, and I'll make sure the right people that are there to address them.
Okay, with you?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, great. Okay, I'll do that. To Mr. Mitchell?
You can send it to Mr. Mitchell, and my scheduler is jason.fink@dc.gov.
You said Fink, F-I-N-K?
Actually, what is they like me to use a different scheduling @dc.gov.
Okay, gotcha. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Commissioner Palmer.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor Bowser and team, and especially to the Mokers. I just want to highlight what a great job they do for us as commissioners, and we're very, very grateful for them.
Thank you.
I'm just going to read my question to keep it concise. In light of long-term neglect, what are the administration's long-term plans with regard to public housing, including both repairs and new public housing, as well as governance and management at the DC Housing Authority?
Yeah, well, it's a concise question, but a big one, because we have, I think, about 6,000 units of public housing in the district, and we really can't afford to lose any of them to disrepair. And unfortunately, we have a kind of a long path to get all of our units where they need to be. You asked me about the governance issue at the Housing Authority is kind of complicated because of how they're set up. They're not a mayoral agency, they're an independent agency. I appoint members to the board, but there are also like statutory members of the board who aren't appointed by me. They're not appointed by the council, and they're kind of unaccountable to anybody. So we have some concerns about that. I was pleased that the board has now an interim leader while it searches for its next executive director. And I have absolute confidence in her. Brenda Donald, who is a long time DC government, Maryland leader. She most recently led CFSA. She had been the deputy mayor for children and families in the Williams administration. I think she also served one of the governors in Maryland, also in child services. She represents, we think, the first executive director who actually has a human services background. And we know that the Housing Authority is part real estate and property management, but it's a lot of human services interaction to make sure that residents are using public housing to get on their feet and expand their opportunities at the same time. So we feel very grateful for that. I want to ask John to say a little bit about what we have in place in terms of the capital dollars for replacement, as well as some of the development projects that are underway.
Thank you, Mayor. So right now, the Housing Authority is undergoing facilities assessment. This was done in partnership with the Mayor's office, the Deputy Mayor's office, the CFO's office, as well as the Council Committee on Housing. And this was started a few months, actually almost a year and a half ago, where we had conversations all together in order to figure out the path forward to really overcome the neglect that you talked about that has taken place over the last few decades. And when they do that assessment, what that'll give us is a clear understanding of what is needed and where, but we're not waiting. So the mayor has put forth tens of millions of dollars in order for us to actually fulfill capital needs that the Housing Authority has. The one thing that the agency needs to do, and I have the opportunity to serve on the Board of Commissioners, is to make sure that we're utilizing the capital dollars that the city has allocated to it. So as an example, in the fiscal year that we're in right now, FY21, there's $50 million that the Housing Authority has available to it. Thus far, it has obligated only about 20% of that. So what we need to do is make sure that we're utilizing the resources that we have, because as we continue with this facilities assessment and we get that information to the mayor and to the council, and we let them know exactly what's needed, and that need, when it's fulfilled, will actually be maintained as well. We need to show that we have the ability to spend the capital dollars that are given to the agency. So there's a lot of work to do, but the one thing that is really promising is that by the end of this calendar year, that facilities assessment should be done so that we have a real understanding of exactly what each property needs and are able to figure out then the funding source and the path forward to make sure that all of our units are able to be utilized as the mayor mentioned.
I believe we've worked our way through all of the commissioners except for Commissioner Yates. Commissioner Yates not only will ask, just so everyone's clear, not only ask his one question, but he will read the questions that are in the Q&A and the chat from residents.
All right. Having me go last is like a flashback to elementary school, the last name that starts with Y.
I'm so sorry.
Thank you for joining us, Mayor Bowser. I appreciate it. I also wanted to start with a thank you for your budget advocacy efforts for historic preservation grant funding for multifamily housing. That's been something that's been important up here in the Tacoma Historic District, and they haven't been eligible for it. So I wanted to thank you for your efforts on that. No question there. But the question I did have is recently your designees on the Regional Transportation Board split with the council designees to support the widening of Highway 270 in Maryland. And I was just curious, given the district's ambitious climate goals and the obviously the traffic impacts of sending more cars into the District of Columbia, how does that help us meet both our Vision Zero and our district climate goals?
Evan, it is a commissioner, I should say.
Evan's fine.
It is a good question, and I have to admit that we struggled with where to be, but I finally, in talking to the directors as well, just know that the replacement of the American Legion Bridge is so significant to kind of the transportation network that we had to support it. Now, would I have preferred that the question be split on the widening of 270? Yes. I think in a perfect world, we would have supported the replacement of American Legion Bridge and left and not really. I don't want us to take a fierce advocacy for widening of 270. And I also think in the next year or so, that question is going to still be alive when there's a new governor. So that's where we are. And you can count me as saying we are wildly supportive of replacement of American Legion and very, very lukewarm to cold on widening of 270.
I appreciate the frank answer. I'm going to move to the chat now, just so you know that these aren't coming from me, they're coming from other folks. Susanna Merlin wants to know, and I'm going to consolidate these into one question because I had questions from both points of view in the chat on this. Can the mayor address whether or not she supports keeping those sections of Rock Creek Park that are now closed to cars permanently and open to people?
So the questioner should know that I advocated for the closure during the pandemic and the public health emergency. And I support where the Park Service is now, and that's looking at a couple of options. The status quo, going back to the way it was, looking at rush hours or other holiday hours. And I think to Everett's earlier point, we're kind of in an unusual space right now of not having regular traffic because of people not being back to work. So I do think it's important to look at those impacts.
Okay, thank you. Next question. Tony Giancola wants to know, does Ddot have goals for the completion of traffic safety assessments? Something to measure progress on how long it takes to complete those studies.
That's a good question, Tony. And Everett, if Everett doesn't have goals, we're going to work on some goals so that you commissioners and the public have a reasonable expectation of when we can turn those around. Director Lott.
Yeah, thanks for that question. And let me just say that, yes, we do have goals, and we set a lot of goals and benchmarks for all the team and the staff for our projects to be implemented and completed. As it pertains specifically to the traffic safety assessments, the general rule of thumb is on average, it takes about 130 days for an assessment to be completed, but we're not talking about, and I really want to make sure that we're emphasizing the actual work to be done. So it's only a traffic safety assessment. which is the recommendation for work to be done or not be done. And so once we actually have that assessment completed, and if it does support some type of action to be taken, at that point in time is when we actually would put in a work order for that particular request to be completed. And that means a work order. Also might mean request for funding to support an initiative as well.
Chair Brooks, that finishes the questions in the chat. If we want to call on hand raisers. Oh, I just got another one. You mind if I read that first and then we'll go to the hand raisers?
Go ahead.
Yeah. Mpd Bryant wants to know, my son, Nugget, who is watching, has asthma and goes to DCPS. I've had trouble getting a doctor to fill out a virtual school form from OSSI so he can protect his health, because it says that his health condition has to require him to study from home, not just be recommended for it. What are you doing to ensure that kids like mine are able to attend school virtually and stay in DCPS?
The question to Nugget's mom, I'm looking at it in the chat now. So the OSSI requirement is, if she's, okay, let me say this about asthma, not being a doctor or Nugget's mom, take this as a generic response, is that not all cases of asthma would prevent a child from going to in-person learning. Okay, that's what all the medical professionals say. So that really is a conversation between parent and physician. And then putting in that notice to DCPS or OSSI is really pretty simple at that point.
Okay.
I think the question is about the wording requires versus recommend. The form says requires. I was at the hearing. I saw Ms. Bryant testify the other day, so I figured I would clarify on that.
She also just stated he develops pneumonia with his asthma.
That would, and then again, I don't want to talk about any child's particular case, but for me, that sounds like a conversation between parent and doctor, not me, because I'm not going to make the call, not OSSI. They're not going to make the call.
Okay, so at this moment, there are no more questions in the chat. There are 2 hands raised. The mayor and her staff has been very gracious with their time, which I am very thankful for, and we don't want them to have to stay on the call forever. So we're gonna, if it's okay with you, Mayor Bowser, we'll take the 2 questions from residents that have had their hands raised for quite a while.
Yes.
And that should then bring, I guess, this part of the agenda to a close.
Okay, and then I have a question for you guys.
Okay.
Okay.
So Gordon, if you could elevate the 2 residents that have their hands raised, I would appreciate that.
Yes, ma'am. Phone number ending 979. You should be able to speak. You can dial *6 to unmute yourself. And while we're waiting, Frazier, you should be able to unmute yourself now. Go ahead, sir.
Am I speaking now?
Yes, sir.
Oh, good evening.
Good evening.
I just have a question that I brought up at the city council hearings the other day about information about the opening of school and how we can get a media blitz so that all of the parents and caregivers can find out rather than getting it on the internet. If there's any way that it can get publicized on the sides of buses or on the television stations, or even like the signs that are now coming up throughout Ward 4 about the new 20-mile-an-hour speed limit. If we could get some signage just to let parents know that students have to be vaccinated, they're going to be wearing masks all the time, and there is going to be social distancing. Because I don't think that just sending it out on the internet has worked.
Okay. I know that we do have a media campaign either planned or underway. So board member, let me get you some information, but also take your recommendations back to the team. The Deputy Mayor for Education is responsible for that blitz, including the vaccination drives that we're about to do. In the first week in August, we're going to be doing incentive program giveaways, raffles, similar to what we did for adults, but with kids themes. And at those events, young people will be able to get not only their COVID vaccination, but the other childhood vaccinations that are required for the start of school. And I also believe their dental screening. So a lot of that is happening, and we want it to continue to happen. So we will amplify the message about masking and distancing, but also amplify the very, very strong recommendation from the pediatric community that kids get back to in-person school. And we have done everything that we can to put ourselves in a position to get them there.
Okay, we have phone number ending 979. It looks like you should be able to speak now.
Hi there. I just really like to thank all of the commissioners and the mayor. I lost power about an hour ago, but I'm on the phone because I think this is so important. I just think we need to have some big changes in DCRA. With the building collapse on Kennedy Street, I think a lot of us residents are scared. The DCRA rep was saying, well, they went out and looked and there were no violations, and then the building collapsed and a man is paralyzed. So I think if this needs policy changes, I don't know what, but something has to change because I think a lot of us are very scared.
Okay, I appreciate that. And I haven't gotten the final report on the cause of what happened in the 900 block of Kennedy Street, but we will be sure to share it with the commission. And I kind of like to emphasize, and I didn't appreciate this until I inspected the site myself, because it's been described, and it is, or the structure collapsed. But it wasn't, it was in a very early stage of construction. And so it's like somebody's fully built and inspected house fell down. That didn't happen. But a house that was in a very early stage of construction during a weather event basically blew down. So what I think our folks are looking at was at every stage of that framing, you know, should there have been a reasonable expectation that that framing at that stage should have withheld that wind? And that's what the inspection is about. But I hear your larger question. And I don't know if this is the example, but your larger question is, there's a lot of construction, a lot of rehab and renovation. And we residents want to feel safe knowing that the contractor working next door to us is licensed and that he is doing or she is doing everything according to the permit, and that our inspectors are out there proactively. I think if there's any kind of big feedback that I've heard from residents is that we need to be more proactive in our inspections and maybe inspecting more often, not just at certain milestones in the construction. So yes, your question is, we are always looking at incidents like this to see if it suggests any weaknesses in our processes. And when this report is final, I'll know that for sure. And work it into all of the things that we do at DCRA.
And those are the hands. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that. Mayor Bowser, you had a question for us.
Yeah, so my question is, I have participated more recently in a number of meetings like this that are on Zoom or some other platform. And I wanted to know how the commission, what's your impression of having meetings like this? What is your plan for the future as we're coming out of the public health emergency? What has been the feedback from your residents? How do you feel about it?
Okay, I guess I'll start, and if I leave something out, commissioners, feel free to, add to this comment. I think that we have found that we have had a lot more participation on Zoom than we did in person. And we also had participation from residents who weren't able to come in person before and are very excited about the opportunity to be able to engage. And whether that's because, they were a single parent who needed to be home with their children, or it was during the school year and they had homework to help, whatever it was, we get a different mix of people now than we did before and are therefore able to reach a larger audience. And that is a great thing. In addition to that, for a few of us, we have, children that are immunocompromised. And so we feel safer currently in a Zoom environment than we would if we were currently required to come back in person. We know that we don't have to return to in-person meetings until at least February 5th, as it stands right now. We are hopeful that we can find a way to have continued hybrid options for those residents that we just discussed that couldn't join before but would like to participate remotely, and for those commissioners who aren't comfortable just yet being in person.
Okay.
I think, I don't want to say I'm speaking for everybody, but I think that summarizes a lot of what we've discussed. Commissioner Palmer, I saw your hand first.
Yes, thank you so much, Commissioner Brooks. That's an excellent summary. I would just add that we have actually approved a unanimously approved resolution in support of hybrid meetings going forward.
Yes. Commissioner Yates, I saw your hand next, then Commissioner Tiffany Johnson, and then Commissioner Bromagen.
I just want to endorse both what you said, Chair Brooks, and Secretary Palmer's statement as well, but lift up a part of that resolution is that in order to do this effectively and equitably and to have hybrid meetings that work in every community, it's going to require investment and support from the DC government. Allotments have been largely flat, and the most efficient way to provide the technology needed for hybrid meetings would be to centrally support and provide them. And so in order to actually do it well and to do it effectively and to make sure that every commission and every community has the same access to hybrid meetings, there should be some sort of centralized technological support to make that happen.
And that is to run the meeting or for people to access the meeting?
So I think it's a little bit of both. I think that, like, in order to have a hybrid meeting, you need technology in place, right? Like ways to get on the internet and to make sure that people are able to participate even if they're there virtually and some people are there in person, right? So there's a material cost in that, but also just technological support, right? Someone to sit there and make sure that the meeting doesn't get Zoom bombed and things of that nature that we haven't had to deal with as well.
Got it. All right, that's helpful. Thank you, guys. It's good to see everybody.
I think there were two more comments on this subject, Mayor. Can those commissioners be heard?
Sure.
Okay. Commissioner Tiffany Johnson and Commissioner Jeff Bromagen had comments.
I just wanted to first and foremost say that I agree with everything my commissioners have already said, but also on a smaller scale, I have seen an increase in my single member district meetings since we've gone virtual. My senior residents, my disabled residents who weren't able to come out are able to participate, and I've relished that opportunity because they have a breadth of information.
Okay.
And so I think that that's something that if we can continue on as well, would be they would greatly appreciate, as would I.
Got it.
Commissioner Bromagen, you get to.
Thank you so much. Well, yeah, Commissioner Yates said most of what I was going to say. I was just going to point out, we knew that we were missing people by not having at least a dial-in function before. And so it's going to be hard to just go back to being in person and not, we're going to leave people behind sort of. And And the meeting room we used to meet in the police station didn't have wireless internet access that would support the capabilities we need to just run a meeting. And so that's sort of the real world example of, if we don't meet there, we have to meet somewhere else. If we meet somewhere else, it might not be open late enough for us. We have to work through that as a commission, and we will. But those are the challenges. But that's it. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for your time. It's so greatly
Yeah.
appreciated.
Thank you, everybody. Have a good one.
You too.
Thank you for joining us.
Okay. So next on our agenda actually would be Anthony Mitchell.
Hey, folks. I don't know how to follow up the mayor. I wish there was somebody going before me, but I'll try my best. Thank you all so much for making the time this evening to allow us to join and share some of the things that we have going on with the budget, but also to share some concerns. I just want to bring up a couple quick things, and then I'll get out your hair for the night. I'll still be floating around, but make sure that other people get a chance to say what they need to say. City Open is happening this weekend. Starts on it's coming Saturday, July 31st, and it's going to run until August 8th. If folks, nobody really in 4B is impacted by it, but if folks want to go, you can definitely go. DC is definitely open, and if you haven't gotten your tickets, please do so. I also want to draw people's attention to Open Streets. Ddot has announced that we will be doing Open Streets yet again.
We lost your volume.
You hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, we're going to shut down Georgia Avenue from the 31 to 61 back to the 64. But we're going to, the same places that we did for 2019, that 3-mile stretch of Georgia Avenue, that's going to be in October. We're going to have, different modes of transportation available for folks to allow them to come in and, see the different types of things that are available in terms of biking, walking, and obviously foot traffic for our businesses in the area. And last but not least, I just want to say thank you to Commissioners Palmer and Yates for making time for us to walk through and share information about Stay DC, as well as COVID-19 vaccination information. I know a couple other commissioners requested time, and we're setting that up so we can walk through your SMBs and identify other issues going on. I know I got to do it with Commissioner Huff a couple weeks ago at LaSalle, back as Recreation Center and other areas. So if folks have other issues that they want to flag or do walkthroughs, I'm happy to do that as well and follow up on the issues. Commissioner Johnson, I saw your email yesterday regarding trash and rodents. I flagged that for DOH for the rodent abatement. I flagged it for DPW to address the trash.
Yes, thank you.
I think I responded to your email, but just want to let you know. And Commissioner Palmer, I will be sending you the updated list for office spaces. I did get that right before the meeting, but as you can imagine, there are some other things going on to prepare for. But I will be sending you that at the end of the questions if there are any. And with that, I'm going to shut up and take questions if folks have any.
Okay, so we ask that if you have questions, you type them into the chat and/or use the raise your hand function.
I have a question in the chat.
Go ahead.
Uptown Main Street wants to know, can you repeat the open street dates, please, Anthony?
That's going to be,
Anthony, we haven't been able to hear you when you've listed the dates. If you could make sure you put them in the chat, that would be helpful. Thank you.
definitely going to do that, Gordon, but it's going to be October 9th. Just one day for the open street. City Open is going to run from, which is the tennis tournament over at Carter Barron, this coming Saturday, July 31st through August 8th. Did you give me that time, Gordon?
Yes.
Okay, cool.
Any other questions? Okay, Commissioner Tiffany Johnson.
Okay, for open streets, what are the parameters that are going to be put in place for ensuring that we're not that we're wearing masks? We have the Delta variant. We have people who are still succumbing from COVID-19. We're still in a global pandemic.
So currently there is no mask mandate for folks to wear masks per the mayor's order. It is still very much so encouraged that folks, if they feel comfortable, continue to wear masks and social distance as they see fit. But currently there is no mask mandate. It's an outdoor event, so hopefully folks will be able to distance themselves from one another and be able to still participate as they see fit for the event.
Okay, thank you.
Are there any other questions from commissioners? All right, well, thank you.
Thank you all so much. Really appreciate it.
So next we have representatives from Council Member Janice Lewis George's office. Could you please elevate Lanice Edwards, and I need to get one more name, which is Justice Davis.
They're both come up now.
All right, thank you very much.
Hi, good afternoon, everybody. Lanice Edwards here from Councilmember Janice Lewis George's office. Tonight I'm joined with our office intern, Justice Davis, who's been with us for the summer, and she's going to provide a portion of our comments this evening. A few quick things. I know Ms. Kirkland was on very early in the conversation. She mentioned Councilmember White's bill, legislation that he just recently introduced. Our legislative team is looking into it, and I'm hopeful that that's something that we all can support. Obviously, we want to make sure that we're protecting tenants all across the district, especially in Ward 4. Another note, State DC is having a Ward 4 pop-up at Petworth Library this Thursday, the 29th, from 12 to 7. So if you know anybody who needs help with their application, feel free to send them over. We're working in partnership with the mayor's team, and we're so grateful for them taking the lead on creating this event. The council member recently sent out an email to all the commissioners as it relates to the Thursday hearing on public safety. We know that commissioners are on the ground doing all the work as it relates to dealing with all of the gun violence that's unfortunately been impacting our communities. And so we know you all have a ton of questions, and so we want to be in partnership with you. The council member wants to be in partnership with you. So if you have any questions you'd like the council member to share or uplift during the hearing on Thursday, please feel free to send them over to us. And so with that, I am going to turn it over to Justice Davis, who will provide some remarks as it relates to the budget and some community events. And as always, would be happy to take some questions at the end. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Lanice. My name is Justice Davis, and I'm a sophomore at Howard University and also a summer intern for Councilmember Lewis George. The council is in its home stretch of finalizing the DC budget, and we have quite a few updates to share. This week, through the chairman's revised budget and the first council vote, we made big investments that will boost Ward 4 residents, including $1 million in funding for improvements at Petworth Library and major changes to DCRA. We also secured the following budget wins for Ward 4 through this committee budget markup process. First, funding to launch Petworth Main Street Association, which supports local businesses as they recover from the pandemic. Second, funding on Tacoma Main Street that provides increased support for small businesses. Third, $1.7 million in traffic safety upgrades for Georgia Avenue. And for those who don't know, these are updates that were recommended by past studies, but they weren't ever really, given the funding to be implemented. Fourth, dedicated funding for the Vision Zero Enhancement Omnibus Amendment Act, which to bring citywide traffic calming measures and safety improvements. And lastly, a long list of support for vulnerable residents like cash assistance and excluded workers, increased funding for violence interruption, expanding paid medical leave, and much more. We are also working to address a few final issues around education and healthcare. The final budget votes will be held August 3rd and August 10th. As far as the calendar, we only have a few calendar updates. This Thursday, July 29th at 9 a.m., the council is planning to hold an oversight roundtable with the DC public safety leaders. The main topic of this roundtable is the city's gun violence prevention and reduction initiatives. This hearing will only include government witnesses, but community members can submit written testimony to the email that will be supplied in the chat. For any public safety related questions, please email my fellow staff member, Joanna Blotner, whose email will also be dropped in the chat. Thank you all here today, and I ask that you direct all questions to Lenise.
All right, I'm ready for the questions.
Commissioners, do you have any questions for the councilwoman's office? No, seeing no hands raised. Are there any questions in the chat, Commissioner Yates?
I had one for Mr. Mitchell if he's still with us.
I do not know. Let me see if he's still with us. I did text him though to make him.
I am still here.
Okay, wonderful.
Do you see the question in the chat or you want me to read it out loud? I'll read it out loud. Residents on 3rd Street Northeast have been, because maybe the council member's office would want to swoop in and assist as well. Residents on 3rd Street Northeast have been trying to get a status update on the blighted property at 6109 3rd Street, on which a stop work order was issued for over 5 years. We can't get a response from either the zoning board or DCRA. Can you please assist? This is Rabiha Mateen is the person.
Hey, Neighbor Mateen,
Can't hear you,
Anthony, you faded out again.
Yeah,
I think my computer must be nervous or something like that. Neighbor Mateen, can I give you my contact information and we connect offline? I think that'll be more helpful to try and hash it out in real time.
I can connect both of you. This Ms. Mateen is my resident, and this is my single member district. So I'm happy to connect both of you via email tonight.
Yeah.
I also wanted to personally extend my appreciation to Ms. Davis for joining us and thank her for such an informative update.
Absolutely.
Thank you all so much for having me.
You're very welcome.
I just
want
want
to with us again in the future. How long will you be an intern?
Only for the summer, but I'm definitely hoping to either continue out throughout the school year or come back next summer.
Commissioner, just one last thing. The council member looks forward to being here at your next meeting after the budget vote to report back on all of the wins that we've gotten for Ward 4 and across the district.
We look forward to having her. She's always welcome.
Thank you.
Chair Brooks, we have a hand raised.
Would you please allow them to ask their question? Good evening, Minister Chi.
Good evening. So I just wanted to share with my council person as well as Anthony and the 4B commissioners that the building on my block, I think the address is 917 Sheridan Street Northwest, will be opening Sunday, August the 3rd. We have Howard University students and Gallaudet students moving into all 20 apartments. So it's gonna impact the parking on Sheridan. So I just wanted to make you all aware of that because you know we have Domino's and people park on my block to go to Domino's. So I wanted to share that with you guys. There's only 3 parking spaces in the back of that building. So my block is gonna be impacted. Thank you very much.
Very welcome.
Is that Sunday or Tuesday? I didn't get that.
Commissioner, Minister Chi, can you give us the date again?
Sunday, August the 1st. I'm sorry, the 1st.
Okay.
Thank you, Minister Chi.
All right, next on our agenda would be State Board of Education Representative Fraser O'Leary.
Good evening, everyone. It's it's been an interesting first hour with the storm that came through. And I'm a little lower than you are in 4B. And y'all were talking about power shortages and everything. And then all of a sudden it came right through 4C.
Yeah. Did you have?
We're in the midst of our Ward 4 intensive summer school programs. You need to contact your neighborhood school to find out more about what can be done to help your child this summer. Some of the programs, the elementary schools are ending this week, but some of them aren't. They're on different schedules. As you heard from the mayor, all DCPS schools are slated to open 100% on August 30th. That's what the wish is. I'll believe that when I see it. And all students are mandated to be masked, vaccinated, and there will be appropriate social distancing. Something that hasn't been mentioned yet is the fact that in the past year, when the schools were open, they were about, a lot of the schools, especially in Ward 4, were about at the most 30% filled up. And if it's going to be 100% in August 30th, then the social distancing is going to be a real problem. This summer we have active food sites, which have breakfast and lunch bag servings 5 days a week from 10 to 2 at Coolidge, Roosevelt, Brightwood, LaSalle, Bacchus, and Truesdale. On August 13th, Emory Recreation Center will be having an Uptown Community Day from 12 o'clock in the afternoon to 8 o'clock at night. And they're going to have all kinds of wonderful entertainment and things for children in the community to do. That's on August 13th from 12 to 8 o'clock. That's a Saturday, I believe. But maybe it's not a Saturday though. I'll check on that. I'll put it in the chat. The 19th Street Baptist Church on the 7th of August is going to have a school backpack and supply giveaway from 10 o'clock to 1 o'clock on the 7th of August. And today we delivered over 250 books to 10 different schools in Ward 4, and we're still delivering books. And for the first time since we started, I'm not asking for you to donate any books quite yet. We had a 3,000 book donation about a month ago, and I'm still delivering those books to the school. So I'm sure that the next time we meet in September, well, it'll be at the end of September for this meeting, I'll be begging for books again. So if you have books, especially for elementary school and pre-K, just set them aside or give me a call, I'll come get them. And I put my number and my email in the chat. Oh, one other thing. UDC is offering a couple of programs for incoming freshmen this year. One of them is called Rise DC, and it's available to all the students, and it includes a last dollar need-based free tuition, a $1,000 need-based scholarship per semester, bookstore credit, and a Microsoft Surface Go. I think that's one of those things you see on the football games. And so please, if you know anyone, if you have a child that's going to UDC, or if you know anyone that has a child going to UDC in the fall, please let them know to get in touch with UDC about, it's almost free tuition. And if they made really good grades, they even have more programs for students coming in this fall. If they're over a 3.0, there's other monies available. It's the best investment. It's the cheapest college in the metropolitan area, and I've been teaching there for 40 years, and I know it's a good educational institution. I'm done.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions for Representative O'Leary?
Yes, Griffin asks in the chat, so all students over 11 will be required to be vaccinated against COVID-19. Will they be sent home? If not, and will there be vaccinations available at the schools?
What the mayor just stated, and that was why I asked that question, is that they're going to be vaccinating children, I believe, starting next week throughout the district. So if, let's take her on her word, and they're going to be offering vaccinations. No students are supposed to be going to back in the schools without being fully vaccinated. That's including any child going to school. For my son and I were talking today about polio vaccinations. I'm old enough to remember when people got polio, and probably none of you even know anyone that ever has had polio. But the students can't go back to school without being fully vaccinated. But they're also going to offer the COVID vaccination for the students. I don't know about the younger children, but especially the high school and middle school children, and probably half of the elementary school children, according
Can
to
I
the
jump
age.
in? Because Mr. O'Leary, can I
Yes.
jump in for a second? Because you're
Sure.
confusing me. Are you suggesting that if students are under the age of 12, that they can't return to school because they're not vaccinated? Is that what I'm hearing you say?
You can't
Because
go,
that's not the case.
a student cannot go to school if they're not vaccinated. Now, I'm not talking about COVID.
Okay.
I'm talking about being vaccinated
Regular
for
other polio, measles, mumps.
chickenpox,
Okay.
and all that other stuff.
Okay, I got you now.
But I
I'm
think
sorry,
what,
that was unclear.
what the mayor was saying, though, is that they're going to offer vaccinations for all of the students who are eligible to be vaccinated, because they haven't made that, children under the age of 12 have to be vaccinated yet. But this virus hasn't retired yet.
Right, but I think the clarification is what the mayor, and someone please correct me if I heard this wrong. The mayor was saying that they were going to have COVID vaccinations for those 12 and up,
Right.
but then they were also going to offer the other vaccinations that all children have to have.
That's what I
present
heard. Yep. And dental
documentation for.
and dental screening. She also
And
mentioned
yes,
dental screening.
and dental screenings as well.
Right,
And
which is
So the
reason I-
one-stop shop.
Yeah, the reason I brought it up was because nobody knows anything about what's going on. And it seems to me that they ought to, but the chancellor said that last week, that they're going to be advertising it. And the mayor said it's going to start next week as far as advertising it. And so we should be able to see that. I think there ought to be those 20-mile-an-hour signs. They ought to have vaccination sites and stuff on signs like that.
So I was so enthralled with your whole presentation that I have allowed you to go over by about 5 minutes. So I need to wrap this segment up.
Oh, okay.
And poor Captain Porter has waited patiently for 2 hours now to provide his presentation. So I have to bring Captain Porter in.
Excuse me.
Yes, I'm sorry, did someone have a question?
Yeah, I had a question for Minister Che. I just wanted to ask her, was she saying, I don't know if she's still on the line or whatever, is she saying this 917 Sheridan Street is Howard University dormitories? I didn't get her point. She said it was going to be occupied by Howard students, but I didn't understand if it's a dorm.
Let us get through
okay,
Captain Porter's presentation, and we will try to double back and find
okay
in a second, okay?
Great.
Captain
Okay.
Porter.
Mute. All right, let me get off mute. Okay, I'm gonna go over this real quick because I see it was a lot going on. So I'm gonna try to take too much of his time. Just going over the stats, just the last 30 days. We did have one homicide that occurred in the 6100 block of 4th Street, Northwest. That is a domestic case, and I believe the suspect, there's already a warrant out for the suspect, and homicide division is looking for that individual. The next case I'm going to talk about is assault with a dangerous weapon. We had one of those cases in the last 30 days. That is down. Last year at this time, we had 3 assaulted dangerous weapons. Right now, we're dealing with 1. So that is down. The robberies are still high in the ANC area. We had 9, even though that does equal the same amount we had this time last year. 9, it can be considered pretty high for a month for this area. However, we're going to definitely stay on top of that. A lot of the robberies are going up and down Georgia Avenue and a little bit around mixed up in the ANC, but a lot of them are around the Georgia Avenue corridor area. Going on to property crimes are up. Property crimes are up in the entire district. And the ANC 4A is no different. The burglaries, we had 2 burglaries. I know one of them happened on Missouri, which a vehicle was taken during that burglary, and the suspect was stopped in the 2nd district by Secret Service and Mpd after he tried to flee the scene. So that one of those burglaries were closed. Last year at this time we had 1 burglary. Theft of models are basically still a issue in the entire ANC and both entire district. We had 42 inside the ANC on 4B. Last year at this time we had 22. So that just tells you theft models are up almost 100%. So we got to be mindful of that, of vehicles obviously leaving property inside the vehicle. I know I just had a meeting with Georgia Row on Georgia Avenue. We had a good meeting with them, trying to get their residents to understand and make sure to leave property out and not inside the vehicles. Going right along the thefts, we had 28. That's pretty much on equal footing as last year. We had about 25 last year this time, so that's up by like about 3. And then stolen vehicles are definitely an issue in the entire city. Most of the vehicles are being taken by way of leaving the vehicles running, going inside stores or delivery drivers. We had 14 in the ANC. They usually spread out basically wherever a vehicle is left running. It seemed like somebody is watching. So make sure you tell your residents to make sure they cut the vehicles off. Be mindful of that. We had 14 in the ANC. Last year this time we had 13. That's not up by much, but still 14 is a lot of stolen vehicles in an area for one month. And that's going to be it on the stats. Like I said, we still have issues around 100 block of Kennedy Street, which we do have a crime patrol unit that works around that area. We also have a crime patrol unit that works around Riggs Park area. So we're going to definitely stay on top of that. I know it was some, I got some emails about 7th and Kennedy. I know that's ANC 4D. However, it's close enough to this ANC. So obviously we're going to keep that area under special attention. My special beat works up and down that area and off of Longfellow, which I think is ANC 4B. But we're just going to keep in that area and keep patrolling that area and be mindful of all the crew members that basically hang out at 7th and Kennedy. And that's going to be it.
Are there any questions from commissioners? No, seeing none. Commissioner Tiffany Johnson.
Hi, thank you so much, Captain Porter. You've always been so responsive to all of my emails. I had a question regarding and we're having a safety meeting in a couple of days with the council member, but what are your initial thoughts regarding some of the problematic houses that we're having in the area with regard to distribution of marijuana, as well as speeding along the corridor with ATVs. And I know that there's a general order that says that you cannot, go after them, but they are causing a detriment to the community. So what should we as a community do?
Well, the best thing with the ATVs, we have to get them when they're parked, and they got to park them sooner or later. They got to store them somewhere and stuff like that. So if the community basically see them being stored in a backyard or whatever the case may be, we need to be notified. That's the best time for us to get them. Once they start getting on the road, it gets a little bit more difficult for us. What we do is we try our best to get the helicopter up, follow them. We usually block gas stations so they're not able to fuel and stuff like that, and see if they can run out of gas sometime. But getting behind them and chase them is just too dangerous for the community to do. But the
No,
best thing,
I totally agree with that.
but like I said, the community, the best thing they could do is try to get us and notify them if they see them being stored on the property somewhere, then let us know, and then hopefully we can find a reason to recover them and confiscate them. When it comes to different vehicles, different houses, when it comes to drug complaints, you can always shoot me an email. There's also an email that the citizens can always send. It's called drugcomplaint.com. It goes, drugcomplaint.dc.gov. I can send it to you, the address. It goes directly to our major narcotics branch, and they basically go through any drug complaints, especially for houses. Obviously, if a drug complaint is happening inside of a house, that's going to have to be worked off an investigation, possibly a warrant. And so that takes a little bit more than just a patrol officer pulling up, knocking on the door. So definitely send stuff to that email address. I'll also send it to me, and I'll make sure I get to the right people.
Okay, thank you very much for that.
Okay, Captain Porter, we have one question, excuse me, in
Yeah.
the chat. I believe, excuse me.
I got you, Chair Brooks. You just rest that throat. Captain Porter, Rabia Mateen asks, there have been a number of car break-ins in my area, including mine, where the cars were locked, but it seems that perpetrators have a way of gaining access using a wireless system, like the same frequency as remote key devices. Do you know anything about this, and how can we protect ourselves against it?
I have heard about it. I have to look into it a little bit more and see, because somebody did tell me about that, and it's possible, because a lot of these vehicles are used when it comes to a lot of high-tech communication, and anything that perpetrators and criminals can come up with, they can figure out how to do things, stuff like that. So I wouldn't doubt it. But what they should do is, just like anything, even if breaking a window, if you don't leave anything visible inside the vehicle, then 9 times they're going to move to the next vehicle. They're looking for things that they can see to steal. If they see a purse, a laptop, or anything, then it's going to find a reason to get into the vehicle. So the best thing you could do is basically keep everything out of your vehicle that's valuable.
I would share, I was told that if you keep your remote near the front door, that helps the criminals get on that frequency. So we were told to keep our keys in a metal container.
Right.
Or
Yeah,
away from the front door.
The citizen told me, he said his key was next to the door, and it was able to allow them to get in it. And I was trying to research it, because I'd never heard that. That was the first time I ever heard that.
Yeah.
There's some device that they have, if it's close enough to your vehicle. Sorry, my dad's former MPD. If it's close enough to your vehicle, so if you hang your keys on your front, on your closet door, they can literally get the frequency and open up your car.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah.
Yep. So, okay. So thank you. I'm sorry, Commissioner Palmer.
I just had a quick question. Captain Porter, does Samantha Nolan still give her crime prevention or adopt-a-block trainings that she used to offer? Is that still a thing?
Not that I know of. I can reach out to her and find out, but I'm not aware.
Okay, because she used to offer those and they were great, and it was just kind of a semi-regular, so heard a lot of these types of issues.
Right. I'll reach out to her.
I think she took time off after she was injured.
Let's just let him.
And I know she's done a couple here and there, but I'm not sure if she's like 100% back up doing them every day, like she used to.
Okay, thank you. So I need to get a glass of water so that I don't sound like I'm dying. So while I am doing that, if Minister Chi could answer Commissioner Johnson's question, and then if Commissioner Yates could give the Vision Zero Committee update, I would appreciate it. I'll be right back. And if for some reason I'm gone too long, if one of you could just move down the agenda, I would appreciate it. Captain Porter, thank you for coming.
Thank you. Stay safe.
Minister Chi?
Yes. So the apartment, it's an apartment, it's not a dorm for the student. They just rented all of the apartments to Howard University and Gallaudet students. So it's not a dorm, it's an apartment building.
Okay, thank you. Thanks for clearing that up.
Now an update from the Vision Zero Committee. The Vision Zero Committee held our regular June meeting, and we discussed issues around sidewalk gaps, which led in part to Commissioner Palmer's resolution this evening. An update going forward is that we are going to recess in August along with the commission and are going to observe a slight time change for our meetings going forward. It'll be on the website too, so don't feel the need to write it down right now, but we're going to be meeting at 5:30 instead of at 6 p.m. to accommodate various and sundry work schedules. Vice Chair Parks, do you want to move on to the next item on the agenda?
I don't have my agenda ran off, so could you go on with it, please?
Sure. Next up is Enora Moss, Project Manager from TBNA for the District of Columbia Powerline Undergrounding DC Plug Initiative. Gordon, can we have her promoted, please?
We have a different presenter. It's Laisha Doherty.
Oh, okay. Laisha should be coming over now.
Hi, yes, good afternoon, everyone.
Hello.
Hi, my name is Laisha Doherty. I am here representing the DC Plug Initiative. I'm going to do a screen share of my presentation.
Sounds good.
All right, let me know if you all can see it.
Yes.
Okay, awesome. All right, so the DC Powerline Undergrounding Initiative, DC Plug, as we call it, presented to you all tonight. Thank you so much for having me. My name is Laisha Doherty. I work at Pepco, and not to be funny, but we were hearing about all the outages that you guys were expressing at the beginning of the call, and we're like, well, you guys are going to be very excited to hear about this presentation tonight and learn about what the initiative is going to do for your community. All right, so the DC Plug Initiative came about in August 2012 as a result of the derecho, and there were a lot of outages around DC. Customers were out for very long periods of time. There was a lot of money that it was involved for restoration. And so then Mayor Vincent Gray built a task force, and the task force decided that it would be best to underground overhead power lines as a result of power outages. The program has been around for a very long time. There has been a couple of amendments, and now we're finally in the process of doing construction and design for the initiative. It is a joint project between Pepco and the District of Columbia. And as you can see in the middle column, Pepco is paying a portion, Ddot is paying a portion, and the district government is paying a portion. DC Plug will provide resiliency against major storms and improve the reliability of the electric service. It is a multi-year project to underground up to 30 of the most vulnerable overhead distribution lines. And if you go outside and you look at the very, very top line, and sometimes you'll see a gray box on the line, that is what is being undergrounded as part of this initiative. All right, so how are feeders selected for this project? So the project is only in wards 3, 4, 5, 7, and 8. The overhead distribution lines in wards 1, 2, and 6 are already primarily underground. And so what the team has done, they have taken a different number of models to kind of evaluate and see where were the least reliable feeders? So where were the areas that were susceptible to more outages than others? And so as a result, the team had identified a couple feeders. We present them to the Public Service Commission in what we call biennial plans. And so we've had our first biennial plan that was presented to the commission. We've also had a second biennial plan that was presented to the commission, and we are in the process of drafting our third biennial plan, which we believe will be our third and final biennial plan of the feeders that we plan to underground as part of this initiative. So we are here to present and to update you all about the feeders that will be in your community, which is feeder 15009. Here you'll see all the other feeders that were in the first biennial plan, but 15009 is where your neighborhood is located. We also have another feeder going on in Ward 4, but that is a part of the Oregon Avenue reconstruction project. So another thing that we do is we look to see what other infrastructure projects are occurring at that time to see if it's something that we can link on and underground. We find that it provides, that it saves on cost, and it also saves on customer inconvenience whenever we can find an opportunity project. So feeder 15009 is the feeder in your neighborhood for the first biennial plan. And then here are the feeders that we have selected for the second biennial plan. As a reminder, we are still undergrounding or in the process of undergrounding. The feeders are in the first biennial plan. So we have only completed one feeder completely, and that is feeder 308, which is in Ward 3. So that was our inaugural feeder that has been complete as of January 2021. And now we're in the process of designing and we'll be starting construction on other feeders. All right, so here is a map. I will forward this to you all, commissioners. I know the map can be a challenge to read, but as you can see, here's a map of all the feeders that we're planning to do in Ward 4. Feeder 15009 is the one that is in your neighborhood, which is 4B. So it's there. I will definitely forward it over, as I know that it can be a little bit of a challenge to see some of the street names and things like that. Here's a brief timeline of the project and where we are. So as mentioned, we have already undergrounded feeder 308, which is in Ward 3. For feeder 15009, we are in the design phase. And so how the design phase works is that Ddot is responsible for all of the civil design and construction, and then PEPCO comes and follows and does all of the electrical design and construction. So we are in the phase of civil design for this feeder. We do believe that this feeder will be start construction either in Q4 2021 or Q1 2022. And so one of the highlights of our project is that we are, our goal is to have up to 100% district-based businesses, CBEs, and residents working on the project. So we have engaged with business community through contractor forums, trying to find certified CBEs, ensuring that there's a district requirement for hiring. We've also had some engagement with those CBEs through contractor forums and just being out in the community. And then also there was a woman-owned CBE that was hired to help us develop the initiative through our logo, our website, and things like that. And so we are very proud of this district requirement of for our hiring there. We also have a very robust communication strategy. So as mentioned, right now we are in the design phase for this. So how we like to do this is first we have a meeting with the council member, in which we have already met with council member Louis George. We then come to the ANC and present to you all like we are doing today. And then next step, we have what we call an open house. And what the open house does is, while today I'm giving you a very high level presentation of the project and the project background and what we're planning to do, the open house will actually go into depth about the streets that we'll be working on. It will show any type of renderings that we may have for what's to come on certain streets. And so we do invite residents to attend that to get more in-depth kind of questions answered about what streets we will be working on. We are also utilizing social media for our outreach. We are also utilizing door hangers and outbound phone calls. We do plan to keep residents posted along the process. So as mentioned, we're here at the ANC. The next step will be an open house. And then from there, once we start construction, we will come back to you all to say, hey, construction is starting. We will also have work site signs that will say DC Plug Initiative so that you'll know that it is us working in your community. We also have our own dedicated project website, phone, hotline, and email address, in which you can see below. The website is dcpluginfo.com. I do invite you all to take a look at the website. And one of the things that you'll see on the website is a video. And the video actually shows the step-by-step visual imagery of what will come as a result of this project. It will also show how if a tree was to fall in a power line, how it will impact the residents before the project and then also after the project. So we do have some good visuals on the website. The email address, we do check and we do try to respond within 48 hours. And then the project hotline is a phone number that you can call with any questions related to the project. So next steps as it relates to this community, as mentioned, we are here today in providing this historical background about the project and letting you all know what's to come. The virtual open house is what I think we're looking to schedule that in either September, October timeframe, in which residents can come and ask more detailed questions. We have our design teams that will be there. We have our engineers, our technical team. So those technical questions can be answered. And we then follow up with communication to stakeholders, whether that's via door hanger, outbound phone call. And we just like to definitely make sure that we're communicating early and often with you all. So again, any questions that you have, you can feel free to direct them at the following formats, whether that's our website, our email address, our phone number, or even our social media. And so that concludes my presentation. Chairman, I don't know if there are any time for questions.
There is time for questions, and we'll start with commissioners. Commissioner Palmer and then Commissioner Yates. I didn't see your hand first. Sorry about that, Commissioner.
Thank you. I have two questions. You had mentioned that another part of this project in Ward 4 is coordinated with the Oregon Ave reconstruction. And I just wanted to know and confirm whether there's any project that's being coordinated with for this specific area, any other Ddot projects, because I'm very thankful for this, but it's a lot of streets and I can see some residents, particularly those who might not know that it's coming or be aware of it, complaining. So I'm hopeful that it can be coordinated with other things. And then my other question was whether there's any opportunity to coordinate it with lead service line replacement with DC Water.
Sure. So to answer your first question, we do not have this as an opportunity project. Opportunity projects are usually identified well in advance of the project and we do coordinate with Ddot and other utilities. So that will answer your second question about the lead pipes. I'm not sure that this will coordinate with them, but we do have monthly coordination meetings with the other utilities. And so if a replacement project is going to be ongoing, that would be probably a good time for them to do that. But I'm not sure, so I can definitely circle back on that for you.
Thank you. Commissioner Yates.
Yeah, I was looking at the map of it and I was just wondering, so the outline of where the lines are, the construction won't extend beyond the boundaries there at all, will it?
No, and I do apologize. I know the map was a little small, but so because we have 3 biennial plans and which we're in the process of submitting the 3rd biennial plans, there will be different areas where this work will be done. So for the first biennial plan is in your neighborhood, and that's 15009. And so that is the boundary for that particular feeder.
I just dropped the large map in the chat from your website. So thank you for that. And I'm sure that'll be a big resource. But that's good. It just, I'm gonna have to continue my quest to figure out who's looking to dig in a certain intersection because it's outside your boundaries. Thank you.
Do you want to address the questions in the chat while you have the floor, Commissioner?
Sure, not a problem at all. Griffin wants to know, did the Capital Grid project move any lines underground since the streets were already open?
I do not have a response for that, but I'm happy to follow up. I know that we are also working on Capital Grid as well, but I think the projects kind of serve two different purposes.
And the second question is, how much the city is already underground?
Oh, that's a really good question. I do not have the full percentage, but I know all of the feeders in wards 1, 2, and 6 are underground.
All right, well, thank you very much for sticking in there and hanging out with us tonight. We appreciate it. If anyone has a question, I'm sure we can reach out to you and get an answer.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Very welcome. Have a good evening, a good rest of your evening. So next presentation, our next presentation would be Michael Henderson from the Department of Employment Services to discuss the Office of Paid Family Leave and give us a program overview. And I'm going to ask if you're still on the call and you're hanging in there with us. We're hoping, my fingers are crossed. I was really hopeful that we would finish by 9:30. Obviously, that's probably not going to happen, but I think we'll be done well before 10 o'clock. So just hang in with us. We have a little ways to go. Mr. Henderson?
Good evening. Yes,
Good evening.
good evening to the commission and good evening to everyone in attendance. My name is Michael Henderson. I'm a program analyst with the Office of Paid Family Leave, and I thank you for the opportunity to give you a brief overview about the district's new program, and more importantly, to answer any questions that you might have. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen now.
Okay.
All right. So the screen should come up in just a moment. There we go. So our program came about as a part of the Universal Paid Leave Amendment Act of 2016. And this provides 3 benefit types for eligible individuals in the District of Columbia. So there's parental leave, which is a leave to take care and bond with a newborn child or a child that's been placed in your home. You can receive up to 8 weeks of leave. Then there's family leave, where you can provide care for a family member who has experienced a serious health condition for up to 6 weeks. And then we have medical leave, where you're able to attend your own personal medical leave event or serious health condition for a period of up to 2 weeks. Again, an important reminder here that, regardless of the number of qualifying events that you might have, the combination of events that you have or the leave that you take cannot exceed 8 weeks in a total year under the current program. I want to cover briefly some of the primary responsibilities in this program with regards to employers. So this benefit is provided by a payroll tax that is processed in a similar fashion to the Office of Unemployment Compensation. And there's 4 primary responsibilities that all contributing employers have to follow. The first is registration, and we're using the same system that employers are already familiar with, that they're using for the purposes of reporting wages to the Office of Unemployment Compensation and paying their taxes. So this is the employer self-service portal. Many employers, again, are already familiar with this and may in fact have a third party or TPA agent acting on their behalf. So there's not going to be much different that happens there, other than you report wages for both programs and then pay out your taxes separately. Again, the tax itself, we begin collecting on July 1st, 2019, and is based on a 0.62% payroll tax that, again, comes directly from employers for their covered employees. The third primary responsibility is notifications. Now, our program's a bit different in that it has some pretty strong notification requirements for employers. So you as an employer are required to notify your employee basically of the existence of this program at a number of different times throughout the year. So first being, of course, as you bring on any new employees to your business, at least once annually, and then any time that you become aware or are made aware that your employee will need to or may need to use our program's benefits. You want to make sure that you provide a copy of this notice and or a flyer, the flyer, the workplace flyer in a conspicuous place in a similar fashion to a lot of the work site or workplace posters that are required by other laws. And then the final primary responsibility for employers is going to be record keeping. Again, because this is similar to the process that employers are familiar with in terms of the Office of Employment Compensation, many of these records are going to be the same. Payroll records, records for when you bring on individuals to your business, and then more importantly, if you have your own sponsored benefit or leave type program, you want to maintain the records related to that. Again, an important note that the records for this program should be kept at least a period of 3 years. Another unique factor in this new program is that we do provide benefits and coverage for self-employed individuals. So self-employed individuals have the ability to opt into the program, contribute the same tax rate that our general employer population is contributing, and then they themselves, should they receive or experience a qualifying health event or paid leave event, would have the ability to submit a claim for benefits as well. This is based on self-employment that occurs at least half of the time in the District of Columbia. And there are some additional requirements for self-employed individuals based on the timing of you opting into the program, depending on whether or not you are a brand new self-employed individual or if you've been operating in the district for some time. If there's any questions about that, we can definitely touch base on that just after this presentation. So I'm going to go provide a couple of examples of how the benefit works in terms of wage replacement. So you see here on the screen here, we have an example of an individual who earns about $20 an hour, including tips, working at a restaurant, and this comes down to about an $800 average weekly wage. So our program provides up to 90% wage replacement. It's a progressive scale, so the benefit is a higher replacement for lower, on average, lower earning individuals, and as you earn a higher amount, you will have less wage replacement. Up to our cap of $1,000 of a weekly benefit. So in this case, with an average weekly wage of $800, that comes out to about $720 per week for our program, which is about the 90% range. The next example, you have an individual earning a bit more at $60,000 a year, which comes out to be about $1,150 as an average weekly wage. That's going to be $935 for a weekly benefit amount. And then for our last example, an individual earning about $100,000 a year ends up being about $1,900 for their average weekly wage. But again, because our program is capped at $1,000 per week, and that's going to be just over, just under 50% of a wage replacement. So again, because it's a progressive program, as you increase in your earnings, there will likely be less of a wage replacement on your particular weekly benefit amount. So in general, how this program works. So once you have a qualifying event, you're able to submit a claim. So currently under the program, we do not have the ability to apply for retroactive or past leave that was taken. The program is forward-looking. So once you have a qualifying event, you have the ability to submit a claim and then go out on leave. We do have some exceptions should you have an emergency or exigent circumstance. In those cases, we will review those on a case-by-case basis to determine if you're eligible to receive benefits in those cases. So there's currently a 7-day waiting period. So just after your qualifying event, there's a 7-day waiting period for which you cannot receive payment. So generally speaking, what that means is just after your qualifying event, there's no monetary impact to the claim. So you're able to file within that 7-day period without there being any impact of the benefits that you receive. And once we receive a claim, our programs are required to issue its initial determination within 10 business days. And then after you receive your initial determination of approval or payment, that payment has to be processed within 10 business days as well. Important to note that our program does allow for leave or for benefits to be paid out for leave that's taken in continuous or intermittent segments. So what this generally means is full-time leave or part-time leave. So whether you take only a couple days during the week or you take off full weeks, we do offer that flexibility in our program, provided that your leave is taken in increments of at least 1 full day. I want to talk very briefly about how this program relates to existing leave laws in the District of Columbia. So you see here we have a comparison chart. On the left-hand side, you have the Accrued Sick and Safe Leave Act, or the ASLA. This is paid sick leave for more routine or common occurrences of illness for yourself or for a family member. So again, this is controlled by your employer directly. The law does require a set amount of leave to be available to individuals. However, many employers do offer more paid sick time or more PTO beyond what the law requires. But under this law, you will receive a guaranteed amount of leave between 3 and 7 days. It is based on the size of the employer. So you see on the screen there, depending on whether or not you have 1 to 24 or even 100 or more employees, will determine whether or not you receive leave and how much is guaranteed under the law. There is also an accrual of work required. So you have to work a certain amount of time or hours to gain that benefit. So you work a certain number of hours to gain hours or days of leave. And in the middle of the chart, you see we have the Family Medical Leave and the DC Family Medical Leave Act, or FMLA and DC FMLA. So this is unpaid job protected leave for more serious health conditions. This again is also controlled by the employer. So your employer is kind of making the decision as to whether or not you're approved to take that leave. And it provides up to 12 or 16 weeks of leave, depending on the particular program you're eligible for. So that's also based on the size of the employer. For DC FMLA, 20 or more employees, and for FMLA, 50 or more employees. Similar to the Accrued Sick and Safe Leave Act, this also has an accrual of leave required. So you have to work a certain period of time in order to gain access to the benefit. And then finally, our program is a bit more of a hybrid. So again, it is a paid benefit, and it is also based on more serious health conditions. However, our determinations are made directly by our office. So while the law does require you, the individual or the employee, to notify your employer that you intend to take leave, our program decides whether or not you are eligible to receive benefits. And again, as a reminder, the program provides between 8, 6, and 2 weeks of leave, depending on your leave type. It is also not based on the size of your employer. So regardless of whether or not you have 1 employee or 100 employees, if they are covered and you have an eligible event, they will be able to access and apply for this benefit. And then finally, there's no accrual required per se for our program. So you don't have to work a certain number of hours to gain access to the benefit. But because our program uses a wage replacement system, we do need to have wages reported by your employer. So they have to contribute to the fund and report your wages. And then once we have that information, we'll be able to perform a calculation for your eligible benefits. So what this generally means is, depending on how much you earn at your position, you will want to have a number of quarters, because our program is based on quarterly filings. So we're going to need to have some wages reported in order for us to have a benefit amount to draw down for you. So again, we want to encourage everyone to stay connected with our program. We've developed a microsite or a standalone website, which is available at dcpaidfamilyleave.dc.gov. We provide a number of different updates and opportunities for you to reach out, connect with us, to download materials, and also to learn about upcoming events, both virtual and in person. Please feel free to reach out with any questions or concerns at email or by email at does.opfl@dc.gov. And of course, contact us by phone at 202-899-3700. Again, thank you for the opportunity to speak to you today, and I'll take any questions now.
Thank you very much. Commissioners, do you have any questions? Mr. Henderson, do you mind taking your share off? It's a little harder for me to see the commissioners with that view. Okay, so I don't see any questions from commissioners. Is there anything in the chat, Commissioner Yates, that perhaps I missed?
Yes, Chair Brooks. Griffin wants to know, is this mandatory for all employers in DC?
Yes, so for all employers that are deemed covered. So if you are reporting wages and making contributions to the Office of Unemployment Compensation, you are also covered under the Paid Family Leave Program as well. So there is a mandatory participation. We do not have any opt-out provisions under the current law.
All right, thank you very much. I don't see any hands raised, so I think you're free to go, Mr. Henderson.
Again, thank you all and have a good evening.
Same to you. Our next presentation would be the parks at Walter Reed. You would need to elevate, I'm sorry, Gordon, you would need to elevate Namita Shaw and Gio Esposito.
And as they're coming online, I guess I'd just like to say, I serve as the commission's representative for the Community Advisory Commission for the redevelopment of Walter Reed.
Hi everyone, Gio here. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. And I'd just like to note that we hold bi-monthly meetings for the CAC to hear more general updates about the redevelopment of Walter Reed. The intention of tonight's presentation isn't to take questions about the broader redevelopment of Walter Reed. So we're going to be focused on one piece of it, and we'll get through that now. I will drop in the chat where you can find updates about other development that is happening at Walter Reed. And you can always contact me with any questions that I can forward to the master development team. Thanks.
Sorry about that. My audio cut out. Appreciate the introduction, Commissioner, and thank you, Chair Brooks. And in efforts to keep us on track, I'll get started with our presentation and roll right through it and have questions at the end. Share my screen. All right. So I am Gio Esposito. I am with Toll Brothers here and to present to you our parcels A through G at the parks at Walter Reed. Today we are going to present our plan for 144 townhomes and stacked townhomes. But before we jump in, just wanted to start to share how much we recognize the importance these parcels hold as being the connection point along Fern in Georgia, and also that historic entry point on 13th Street. And as we understand it, they're also a part of the long-awaited first for sale townhomes and stacked townhomes available at the parks. And so understanding all of this, it's our goal to best weave the redevelopment of the site and the neighborhood, all while keeping the historic architecture of Walter Reed.
And Gio, if I might interrupt, you've got the presenter view on, so your presentation is just a little bit smaller. If you can swap, then we can see the bigger presentation.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Okay, is that better?
Yes, sir.
All right. And so just again, combining the history of Walter Reed and the site that we are a part of, but also making sure we pay homage to our neighboring communities. And we hope that our design that we present today does that, and you see that today. And so to start, I'll just run through our quick 5-step table of contents here. We'll start with an introduction. I'll introduce the rest of my team members. We'll then move into a brief review of our community engagement plan, then move to the site context, followed by the proposed architecture, and conclude with some notes on site logistics. And so again, I'm Gio Esposito with Toll Brothers for just over 4 years, and I'll be the main point of contact for the Walter Reed project. Namita Shah, also on the call today, is our vice president at Toll Brothers, again, leading the community planning team, being the main lead of the project here with myself, and then Jeff Driscoll, our VP of land development, working with Urban Atlantic, Trident, and Hines to, again, at the beginning here, get a better grip on our parcels as we look to develop the land here. Christina Lamley, working with John Eisen. Christina is Toll Brothers division architect, working closely with John Eisen of the Eisen Group, who will be the architect of record here in just developing our designs. And moving right along and into our next few months and just our engagement schedule. If we start in the past a couple weeks and months ago in June, and prior, we started to define our site and our programming and begin design development. Following by a few weeks later, July 1st, meeting with Commissioner Watley of our 4A, our actual neighboring ANC, being the first community engagement meeting we held at the beginning of July. Shortly thereafter, being a part of the July 12th CAC meeting. For those of you that were part of that, might be a little bit repetitive, so thanks for sticking with us. And then July 20th, casual meeting with Commissioner Bromagem to get us a part of this agenda, and again, review our design guideline, our designs, and make sure we were on the right track as to what he's seen at the other parcels that have been set forth at a part of Walter Reed. July 21st, right after that, meeting with the 4A single member district of Commissioner Whatley, presenting to them a review of our schematic design. And then finally leading us here today to the July 26th 4B ANC meeting, where it kind of provides us a gap to engage and include any comments and points of feedback from our community members, and gives our project team some time to continue refining the design so that we are prepared for an August 20th HPRB filing deadline, and to make sure that we are doing right for resolution letters and engaging our communities, so that at future ANC and CAC meetings, we can expect to see a positive result and resolution letters. That would be at a September 7th 4A ANC meeting, a September 13th CAC meeting, and then your next 4B meeting on September 22nd, all hovering around filing and a potential HPRB meeting, all at the end of September, towards the end of September there. And so that brought us to point 3 here, moving right through. We'll start with site context. And one of the interesting things we saw when we first started getting a grip of our project here at Walter Reed is just how the site plan has kind of changed over time, starting as far back in 2012, where we first saw a plan where each block acted independently of one another, having its own surface along every edge. This is where you also first begin to see a large multifamily building on parcel G, a mixed use building of higher density, where all the other units in the parcels are smaller and less dense. Looking at its next revision in 2013, we start to see now long linear sticks or strips of units on both the north and south end, fronting Fern and then fronting Elder, and again maintaining that large, bigger density multifamily on the parcel G. And most recently, what we all might be familiar with is a 2018 approved plan, where again we maintain those longer sticks, but opened up and increased some character elements by providing more end units and ability to switch up material. And so it allowed the breathability between the Walter Reed site and the neighborhood when you break up the sticks like this. And again, maintaining a larger building on parcel G. And if we step into our plan, when we engage things like the grade and then travel paths and how we are to connect with the rest of Walter Reed, we've come up with a site plan that you're seeing here, circled in blue, our site on the north of the project, on the northeast end of the project here, fronting Fern and Georgia. We've maintained the long linear stick on the edge as we are the border of the historic Walter Reed site, all along Fern and then down Georgia. And then interior to our site, turning our units 90 degrees allowed us to engage with the site at Walter Reed more by increasing travel paths, be them pedestrian, vehicular, bicycle, and then with muse areas with increased landscaping throughout the fronts of our now fronts of our homes. And if I blow that up to just show you what I mean, again, turning them 90 degrees allowed the pedestrian and the engagement that we are to connect with the rest of the site on our unit's interior. But then also keeping that main fence or edging along all of the borders of Walter Reed, which you see those long linear strips along Fern and Georgia. If I overlay our inventory mix on our site, you see that our highest inventory count is our 2/2 condos shown in orange. Following that is our townhouses fronting Fern Street, of which we have 35 in that particular architectural style. You'll see in 1 second. We have a small batch of townhouse type Bs shown in purple. This was just to honor that 13th Street historic entryway that paves into Walter Reed and shows a view corridor of the historic building 1. And then a green showing a townhouse type C, in which, just to accommodate grade, this is the only townhouse unit where you'll see in a few minutes just how the garage and entry level are both on the same level, different from the other townhouses shown in purple and red. As I mentioned, with the orientation of our new lots, just making sure we do right by the character and viewpoints we've now created by introducing some high visibility lots that would just increase materiality and color on the way that it reads with front to side to rear. And so continuing to study with our internal and external teams on just making sure that every viewpoint and corridor we've created has a similar look and feel to any other that you were to engage with on the site. And I'll move right now into the proposed architecture and how all this relates. And starting when we looked at Walter Reed, we've got a pretty hefty design guideline that we've read through, and from which it defined these character areas where we found 3 important view corridors in the way that it relates to those character areas. And so number 1 being this edging between the Fern Street, Walter Reed, and the Fern Street neighborhood, and just how our site does become and act as that transition point between the neighborhood and the historic architecture now approved at Walter Reed. Number point 2, just showing now a little bit more of that transitional contemporary style, the cleaner line black window look that you'll see on some of the Building O and Building P approval packages that might have come by your desks previously. And then point 3, being again that historic view corridor that I mentioned along 13th Street, and just how that is to reflect more of the history and the historic points of architecture that you've seen at Walter Reed. Again, taking pieces and directly from the design guidelines, bolding them and making sure that they are a part of our DNA and mission statement as we continue to define the design of our structures at Walter Reed. Including character areas along with color palettes and materiality, looking at the neighborhood communities, both on the historic campus and in the neighboring communities, and finding things like front porches, dormer windows, the columns, the materiality in the columns, be them white columns or brick columns or a mix of both. And pulling those elements apart, as you see here, pulling porches apart, knowing that they're important, pulling dormer windows apart, knowing that they're also important, and pulling detail apart that you see in these really unique structures that are neighboring our sites at Walter Reed, and creating a first look at what we plan to front along Fern Street on our parcels. Here you can see Toll Brothers design showing, again, that long linear stick, full front porches that would project up to 6 feet out of the front of the home with some landscaping in the front, engaging with a mix of material on the porch columns, both brick and then the white pilasters, the 6 mullion window layout, and then the dormer windows, very similar to what you would see right across the street. And then utilizing color palette and materials set forth into the design guidelines to, again, do a merge of both that of what Walter Reed and the design guidelines, as well as the neighborhood across the street. Looking at what this would look like as we look at the back of the home, just turning the corner and making sure that the sides of our homes maintain that brick, as I mentioned, particularly on high visibility lots, and wrapping towards the back of the home so that your eye is following that home and as consistent as it possibly could be, and then maintaining some detail and some depth at your eye level, again, to create a base, middle, top, and also these bookend structures similar to what you've seen at other historic buildings that have been a part of Walter Reed for decades. As I step through the plan, this would be our 2/2 condos. Again, that was shown in orange in that previous plan, our highest inventory. Here you can see us starting to get a little bit more transitional in our design with the use of black windows and black metal railings, darker colors at the top of the base middle top sort of design guideline element. Similarly, turning the corners and the sides and then the rears and bookending each stick with an all brick facade on all sides. And then across the street on that 13th, making sure that we are creating some similarities between the 2/2 condos and the townhouses right on that 13th Street corridor with that darker top, the transitional dark windows, the same mullion layout, a lot of glass, to again make sure that on both sides of the street, that 13th is really an entry point into the Walter Reed site. Wrapping the ends. This is all repetitive, but just wanting to make sure that we're clear our design will be very consistent in every stick along Walter Reed. This is that townhouse unit. There are 10 of them on 12. Yes.
I'm sorry, but we're approaching our 10-minute mark. The clock wasn't started when the presentation first began. So I'm gonna need you to, I don't know if there will be questions, but I need you to allow for questions at the end.
Sure, I have.
Are we close to the end of the presentation?
Yeah,
Okay.
5 slides. Just wrapping the end here, nothing too different. And then wrapping up with 3 slides on site logistics, nothing too crazy other than what you've seen before, meeting or exceeding the project rules and regulations set forth by our partner, Hines and Urban Atlantic, maintaining things like the work hours, trash removal, logistics, safety, and pedestrian and vehicular traffic flow. Recognizing through already our discussions with neighborhoods and stakeholder members that dust is an issue, and working with Hines and making at a priority and getting confirmation that we will have 2 dust monitors on the edge of our site, and we'll work and continue to work with the neighborhood to make sure we're being right by the dust situation. Similarly, the truck travel path, maintaining our main entry along Georgia and entering onto Elder. And then that is all I have. Thank you for your time. Sorry if I went over.
Thank you, I appreciate it. Commissioners, are there any questions? Commissioner Palmer?
Thank you. I'm wondering if you can talk about the affordability levels, if any, for the project, as well as, can you give me a total number of parking spots? Because that sure sounded like a lot, and I'd like to have a number. Thank you.
Of course. So speaking just on your affordability question, at the moment, we have 12 affordable units. 11 will be the condo units. So the 2/2 condos, there will be 11 affordable units there, and then there'll be 1 affordable townhouse. To qualify, the AMI for our location is 80%. And then regarding parking, each unit is independently parked, and our base house for our townhomes will have a 2-car garage. And then for the 2/2 condos, you'll have a 1-car garage for each unit. So the lower will have 1, the upper will have another. And then 25 to 30% of the 2/2 condo units do have a driveway. And so they'll be able, for some units, you'll be able to park an additional car in a driveway.
I believe Commissioner Yates had questions.
Well, I just wanted to follow up and see if you could answer Commissioner Palmer's question first as to a total number of parking spaces.
In terms of additional beyond what each unit has?
No, just the total number of parking spaces you were building.
Sure, hang on 1 second.
And not to jump in, but I guess I am. How many of those are wheelchair accessible parking spaces?
So our units will have I'm sorry, one second. Let me just get there are 288 parking places that would house a car. And each of those would be independently parked within their unit. So it would live similar to a any townhouse with a ground floor or main level garage, where your front door would be on the same level as that garage, or it would be on a separate level, but it is your independent garage space or 2-car garage space. And then in terms of ADA, you'll be able to pull into your garage, and there'll be about a 4 to 6 inch lip that you'd go up. None of our units at the moment are ADA accessible, and we are currently studying whether or not an elevator should be an option here.
I'm sorry, can you repeat that? You just said that you have ADA accessible parking spaces.
No.
Do not.
Do not.
None of them are
Not.
accessible.
Correct.
So none of them are accessible, and the townhomes are not accessible.
Yes.
So I'm just going to lead with, I'm the commissioner probably most impacted by this. It's directly across from my SMD. Georgia and Fern, that intersection is my SMD. It was nice to hear your presentation. I appreciate the outreach you've done to the CAC. I will say it would have been nice to hear from you guys on this. I also share Commissioner Palmer's, I think, I don't want to speak for her concerns about the sheer number of parking spaces you're providing and the driving absolutely huge amounts of additional traffic to my SMD, I think. I'll also say that I don't think it's in keeping with the historic character of the district to provide this much parking. And you've also provided huge amounts of curb cuts, which makes for a pedestrian unfriendly environment as well. Moving past that, I just want to ask what outreach you've done to the communities like on Fern in 4B01 or Elder in 4B01 and 4B02 that are going to be impacted by these decisions you've made.
I'm sorry, Commissioner Yates, for not reaching out sooner. I do apologize and want to take a moment to appreciate that and apologize. We are on a condensed timeline, and so it was just meeting with the 4A and then following suit for the 4B. And it could be a little bit early, just that you guys don't meet again until September. So we were just trying to get on to every possible calendar that we can. And so we do apologize and do plan to meet out one-on-one with you. In terms of curb cuts, these are all alley and rear loaded. And so none of them are front loaded. All of the parking is condensed within our parcels at the site. And we are also changed the density. And so it previously was much higher density. In fact, on your corner there, Commissioner Yates, that was a larger multifamily building of much higher density. We've removed that and just made it that same condo and 2-over-2 unit that you would see interior to the rest of our site.
So I'm going to stop you right there. And then that's not an improvement. Like, I would support more housing production on the site. On an urban transit corridor, it's more efficient to produce more housing in a dense community rather than building a lot of garages, which seems to be the primary focal point of this project. Like, I understand that that's an improvement you want to cast for other people, but like, that's not an improvement for me, frankly.
Absolutely understand. I just pleasing as many people as we could. I just want to. It was an issue in a previous ANC single member district meeting, just in the way that we are parking our particular unit owners. And I guess
I thought you said you'd only reached out to 4A, and you're now. I'm confused now because you said you'd only reached out to 4A, and now you're doing 4B, but you held a previous single member district meeting.
Only the 4A single member district, not their full ANC. Just the 4A single member. No ANC. I apologize if I was unclear.
I think Commissioner Johnson has her hand up. I won't.
First and foremost, which single member district within 4A did you reach out to?
4A03 with Commissioner Watley.
Okay. Thank you for that clarification, because you were saying single member district, but you didn't say which one. Second of all, I'm really trying to understand how you are building this many apartments, condos, whatever you want to call it, and none of them are wheelchair accessible. None of them are disability acceptable under the ADA. Don't you think that's a problem?
It wasn't anything that was a requirement of the site in terms of our particular parcels. It isn't something we are unable on doing, and it is absolutely something we will continue to study, and how ADA relates to a single family home, or sorry, a by right townhome.
So you don't feel that the individuals that live in our community or want to come into our community, who might be wheelchair riders, who might be walker users, have a right to live in this condo?
No, they absolutely do. They absolutely do, and we will look into this comment and absolutely be able to provide you a better answer at the next meeting.
And you have no wheelchair parking either?
At the moment, no. Commissioner Johnson, I would absolutely like to get a one-on-one with you as well, where we could talk about this further.
Before I get a one-on-one with you, I think you need to read the American Disability Act and the Department of Justice recommendations regarding reasonable accommodations and reasonable modifications, because you are completely out of line with all of the legal requirements.
Chair Brooks, I think we have some questions in the chat.
Thank you.
Will the streetscapes have protected bike lanes or at least painted bike lanes?
Yes, that's something we continue to work with our developer, Hines. They have full control over the streets here at Walter Reed. But as of now, we are being told we will have bike lanes at least along the 12th Street corridor. And I think we're continuing to develop the 13th Street corridor as it is that historic road just in general. And so they're going to put out some renderings on what that should look like here shortly.
Yeah, I think some renderings would be helpful, because your renderings right now show no form of either traffic calming or bike lanes of any kind.
Still, yeah, sorry about that, Commissioner Yates. Still working on that as well. Definitely plan to have an increased rendering portfolio at the next meeting.
Okay.
Excuse me. Was that it, Commissioner Yates?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much, Gio, for your presentation. I look forward to another presentation or conversation in the future when these questions that have been brought forward are ready to be addressed.
Do appreciate your time. Thank you so much.
Thank you. All right, next we have Haley Peckett from Ddot. Haley, thank you for waiting. You have a quick announcement, I believe.
Yes. Hi, everyone.
Quick is relative these days, I understand.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, well, I'll keep this very quick. We wanted to take this opportunity to share with everybody the launch of our Park DC permit system. I think I tried to put I think that my draft in the chat has been gone, but I'll try to include it right after this so that you can share afterwards. I won't go through a formal presentation. I'll try to just share with you what the site looks like. But you can see we've launched Park DC permits. It is a new way to have visitor parking. It is only for people who are in the RPP zones, but it allows you to assign a visitor parking pass. A couple of key points that I think have not been clearly communicated as we've launched this system. One is that all residents can get their Park DC permits accounts for free. You can do it online on the website. You may use an app, or you may use a 24/7 call center, and you can use that to create an account, as well as to assign visitor privileges or to register as a visitor. So you don't need to have a computer or even an email address to register. Also, it gives residents a pass, basically a virtual pass that they can use 24/7. So you can have, your cousin that is able to, park as a visitor anytime. And then additionally, besides that pass that's available 24/7, you also get a bank that is equivalent to 90 days worth of hours. So if you wanted to have a huge party and have 90 people come to your house all in one day, like that is allowed. But for most people, it'll just be granting a few hours at a time, but it doesn't limit the number of people that you have as long as it's coming from that 90-day bank. We are happy to take questions at ddotparking@dc.gov, or if you have more questions tonight, put them in the chat. I can make sure that somebody responds because I know the hour is late. And I'll just quickly show you, this is what the dashboard looks like once you're able to register. You can get a visitor code and assign it to people, or you can manage vehicles yourself and say, if my mother's coming to town and she gives me her license plate, then she can, I can input it and print a pass for her. We've also received questions as to whether the system will become fully digital. So right now, because of the workload for DPW with them just starting enforcement, we still need that printed pass for them to be able to enforce it. But we're looking at long-term being fully digital. We just don't have a date for that yet. And the last point I'll address is, I know that there have been some address verification issues. We have worked through those. And if you're still encountering issues with address verification, please do let us know. I think we've been able to respond in the last few days a lot more quickly to some of those requests for people to get registered. I will stop there since I know it's late. I'm happy to answer any commissioner questions tonight or answer anything that comes up in the chat or at a later date.
Thank you for your brevity.
I can stop my
greatly
share
appreciate it.
You all can see the chat.
Greatly appreciate the brevity. Commissioner Yates.
Haley, thanks again. Are you the best person to reach out to for address verification issues? I had sent an email off to our community liaison about some concerns constituents had had in 4B01 about addresses not verifying. And can I ask also, the side question is that there's an ArcGIS map that they were using to check of the 2018 the 2018 map versus the current map, and some block faces appeared to go away from the RPP program. Have there been changes made in those? Like, I've been a commissioner that long, so I feel like someone would have told me, but have there been changes, and are you the best person to direct people to if they have problems?
I will say that if you you're welcome to email me. I'll put my contact information. My colleague, Joe Kerwin, is managing the program, but he is monitoring the Ddot parking count, which I posted on a daily basis. I will say if there's something that you have been waiting on a response, then emailing Joe or myself, I'll post our email addresses. We'll make sure to elevate it and get it addressed immediately. But I know that there's been a number of address verification issues that we at Ddot have been working to address. Your question about how RPP has changed, we actually did a really big update a couple of years ago that aligns the street signage we have with our ArcGIS online maps. And in doing so, it made our data map-based and asset-based, which is great, but it didn't capture hidden RPP approvals. And so if there's an RPP street that doesn't have signage, for example, or maybe there was signage on only like one side of the block, but the RPP applied to all of it, some of those got erased. We've been able to correct a lot of those, but there are still a number of places where Ddot had basically approved RPP that are not aligned with our current policies, would be like a simple way to say them. Not that they shouldn't have RPP, like we're not trying to take away anybody's RPP that has had it in the past, but there might be examples where a previous Ddot director or associate director for parking had approved something that we might not have approved today. So when we encounter a lot of those addresses, we actually have to go to DMV's database and cross-check it. So we're working on digitizing that. That's a little bit of a long-winded way of saying that there is a lot of data cleanup that that has to occur.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Okay, so we can move on to our consent calendar. We have two resolutions and a letter of inquiry. We have resolution 4B21-0701, petitioning for priority sidewalk installations within Advisory Neighborhood Commission 4B. We have resolution 4B21-0702, supporting additional traffic calming measures in ANC 4B06. And lastly, a letter of inquiry following up on outstanding speed hump, ANC 4B speed hump requests. All of these resolutions and the letter of inquiry have been posted on our website. Because this is a consent calendar item, there will not be discussion. So if at this point, we can move forward the consent calendar and vote before I fall asleep at the meeting.
I move to approve the consent calendar.
Thank you. Second. Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Do I hear Commissioner Huff? I believe I did.
Yes, aye.
Thank you. All right. That's all of us. There's no opposition. Motions, resolutions and letter of inquiry are passed. Lastly, on the agenda was the one item that was added by Commissioner Palmer. The floor is yours.
Thank you. I will try and be relatively quick. As I mentioned, this is resolution number 4B-21-0703, titled Requesting Centralized Funding and Support for Advisory Neighborhood Commission Technology and Printing Needs. This originates from an email we received from the Office of Advisory Neighborhood Commissions on July 19th, noting that there is an initial pot of funding of $100,000 in the statutory Technical Support and Assistance Fund for commissions. And that covers things like ensuring that ANCs have access to remote meeting technologies, providing or procuring audio visual technology and services, and providing or procuring printing services for ANCs. That email also indicated that commissions should, by individual commission resolution, submit requests for funding under the fund. So this resolution notes that given a relatively small pot of money and a large number of commissions across the city, that it would be beneficial for the Office of ANCs to survey commissions and attempt to provide centralized support, primarily for technology and printing, so that we can have economies of scale and provide services, needed services for as many commissions as possible.
So is there a motion?
I make a motion to approve.
I second it. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, I heard Commissioner Huff this time. And so that's everyone. Motion carries. Before we adjourn the meeting, I just want Ms. Griffin to know that I see her question in the chat asking to have Haley Peckett return so that there'll again be time for questions. So Ms. Griffin, if in fact you have a question at this moment, I don't want you to feel like we rushed you off the call. So I'm happy to address whatever question you have currently. I believe that Ms. Peckett is still on the call. If not, I can connect the two of you so that you can get your question answered directly.
I also dropped the email in the chat as well.
All right.
For him.
So I want to give Ms. Griffin a chance to type a response or to unmute herself and let me know that she's okay. I don't want her to walk away feeling unheard.
Ms. Griffin, if you'd like, you should be able to unmute yourself.
And I will say, I do not see her on the call. I do not
Okay,
see Haley on the call currently, Ms. Griffin. I
I
thought she was
tried to,
still on.
am I unmuted?
You
Am I
are. I
unmuted?
thought
Okay.
Haley was still on, but she's not. So
Okay,
if you have a
I-
question that we can't answer, I'm happy to connect you to Haley.
Okay, you can just connect me to her, but it sounds like there are going to be so many people printing out passes that what will be the point of having residential parking if any and everybody can print out a pass and give it to their friends and let them park. I don't see how that's gonna restrict parking. That's all.
Okay, fair point. I will send an email to Ms. Peckett and include you so that you guys can connect.
Okay, that's fine. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. So now with that being said, is there a motion to adjourn the meeting?
I make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
And I second it. Thank you very much, everyone. You guys held in there, and poor Erin spent her whole birthday evening on an ANC meeting. So
Happy
kudos to
birthday.
Erin.
Happy
Are we
birthday
gonna
to
sing?
you.
Are we gonna sing? No.
No, we're not gonna sing the meeting.
I think I just want to go. Thank you.
Good night.